Hi, good evening, everyone. It's Mikey and Lance.
Hello.
Yes, kumusta ulam natin, Lance? Okay lang ba?
Okay naman. Sunod-sunod some of it.
Masarap.
Masarap.
Okay. So, hi, everyone. Again, you are here on another BBS Speak Room. So, this is our third installment. Before we talked about the past and the present. So, now we're going to talk a little bit about what the future may hold for us.
Mm-hmm.
And we have some guests tonight. But before that, if you're joining us for the first time, we are Brew a Hobby Squad. So we basically talk about everything and anything on media. It used to be BLs, but now it's just basically everything. And we talk about issues as well regarding the LGBTQIA plus community. So if you're here for the first time, thank you. And if you're joining us again, thank you as well, because you are spending some of your Monday night with us. So Jay Minions is here, of course, to support JM. Hi.
Yes, ever present. Hey, hey,
So he
hey.
said, went ahead and watched the first two parts of this series in prep. Wow. My assignment. Gusto ko yon.
Grabe. I love it.
Uy, salamat ha. Salamat, Jay Minions. At ano naman yung natutunan natin? Sige nga. What was the biggest thing or your biggest takeaway from those two? Ang dami nun ha. So go ahead and put it there. And thank you for joining us and being here. Now, I just want to also share that July 31st is when Game Boys is going to be coming out. So we wanted to sort of like give away tickets for you guys. So just in
Yes.
case you still haven't gotten your tickets yet and you still want free movie tickets, you can go to our Twitter page. Let me just show our background here. Ayan. So hindi nakikita, di ba?
I know. Kasi nandito kasi tayo, Mikey.
Ano yan? Kasi nandito talaga
Nakasalan
tayo.
tayo. Oo.
Sandali. Pakita ko lang muna ha. Tago muna kami. Ayan.
If you want to
Ayan.
join, you just have to check the details or just go to our Twitter account and check Bro Hobby Squad on how to join the contest. All you need to do is subscribe to our channel, like the post, and subscribe and follow Brew Hobby Squad. Then answer the question: what are your biggest takeaways from Game Boys, or what
Right.
parang lasting impression do you want the next generation have with Game Boys the series?
Or specifically, why do you think future generations should watch Game Boy? So go ahead and check it out. Subscribe here on our YouTube channel and check out the Twitter post and reply with your answer. So May the Fiesta is here. Hi May, thank you. She also retweeted
May.
regarding this live and support Bell for our three guests. Yeah. Also, I see Sir Will. Hi. Congrats, Del May from Sir Will. And I also see, well, Jay Minus is saying hi to me. And I think there was another post. Oh my God, I missed it.
Yeah, there's
Okay,
also
hello.
Pauline. Hi, Pauline. And also, hi, shout out to USPH TV. Hey, 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 congratulations to you guys for
Hey,
your
congratulations
premiere
on the
yesterday.
season. Yes, and they
Yes.
played it earlier as well. Yeah. So,
Mm-hmm.
hey, Pauline. Sige, tingnan natin yung kay Jamie. It's a very interesting topic since media is very influential. Kids, adults, women, men, and in between. Everyone has access to them. So it is very important on what message you want to put out to the world. Absolutely. And that's one of the things that we'll talk about today as well. Of course, we want to hear from
Mm-hmm.
the perspectives of our three guests. And we want to know how they will weigh into those questions. Sige, sir, will kapit ka lang dyan. All right, so
Oh,
I think
kapit lang, we understand.
correct. I think it's time to bring up our guests. Lance, who should we bring up first? Oh, Megan.
Oh, let's start with a very good friend. He's an animator. He's also a graphic artist. He's also one of the biggest person I've known who've done fan art for Quarantines, Stuck on You, Game Boys, and many, many more. But what I appreciate of what he does is he's now speaking for the community through his art as well. So please give a warm welcome to Alan Gonzaga.
Hello. Hala, Tita, kinilig naman ako sa intro niya yan. Char!
Yes. Hello. Hi. Hello. 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 Versa queer today.
Oh my gosh, ito na talaga. Nasa Cavite na ako. So, pwede na ako magbakla-bakla. Let's go!
Cavite is the place to be, apparently.
Oh yes.
Yes.
Oh hell yes. And I love the mic, ha? Ang laki na ng mic mo.
Siyempre, yan, para sa inyo, kailangan mag-professional.
Wow. My.
Wow.
Ganyan ko kayo kamahal. Ay,
Wow. Totoo ba? Sige, salamat. Sinusunod.
And the next two are actually, the next one is the second runner-up of Miss Trans Global Philippines. And I think she also has one of the strongest advocacies I've heard of as well. So please give a warm welcome to Miki Alonzo.
Hi, everyone!
Hi.
Good evening. Magandang gabi po sa ating lahat.
Yes, at mas maganda ka sa gabi actually. Thank you, Mickey, for joining us.
Thank you for joining.
Mikey. Thank you, Lance.
Ayan, May is saying hi to you.
Hi,
Oh,
man.
JM, di ba? Agree
JM
tayo.
Minions.
J Minions pala.
Okay, nilikot nila yung JM Minions kasi sila magsigawan sila. Because the next person that called in is a debater, a student from my college as well, in my university. Please, and also one of the contenders for the next big star. Please give a warm welcome to JM Bagyan. Hey, but yun. Hey.
hello.
Ano po?
Ayan. Iangat ko lang kayo guys ha. Ayan. Oh, Mickey's in the chat. Yay! Ayan.
Hey,
So you can
I
also
love
interact with
kind of
them.
multitaskerness like me. Thank you.
Laban tayo dyan. Yes.
Laban tayo.
Okay, so I guess we're gonna go ahead and get started. Go, Lance.
Like, we'll start with a very generic and very simple question. Like, dito magkabuhay-abuta muna. So, how are you doing? And let's start with Alan. Because I've known Alan, you have done a project wherein you want to represent the colors of the pride flag into an animated form. And want to represent their symbols. And I know it was a long journey. So, after going through the first set A of the flag, how are you now?
Yeah. Okay, so, una muna, thank you. I am fine. Maganda pa rin, as always. Ano yan? Tapos pagdating sa project, super, at the moment, hindi ko pa rin tapos yung other 5. I'm still in the process of it. Pero for now, very satisfied. Parang super pagod, at the same time satisfied sa nagawa ko ngayon. So, ayan yung emek ko.
Yes, I mean, di ba, I think you asked the people who you asked information about them, kasi I think you were learning stories about the community as well when you're creating this one. So, which of the 5 characters stood out to them?
Wait, pwede pa, ano yan, pa-reword ng question.
Choppy ka, Lance. Choppy.
Ay, sorry naman. Sorry po. Lumalaban po internet ko din.
Oh my God.
Ayun. So, because I know you asked a lot of people when you were looking for stories of the community, and and I know you also surveyed them on which was their favorite character from the ones you've made. So, ano yung naging resulta?
I guess for the first yung colors yung sa main rainbow, ang dami may gusto sa blue and green, which is nakakatuwa kasi parang baka maparant ako dito kasi pagdating sa mga female characters, ang isa sa pet peeve ko is that hindi sila creative, palagi sila stick sa standard beauty, like yung female bikini body, na parang nakakatuwa na yung 2 female characters ko that doesn't fit with the beauty standard, yung pinaka-favorite ng lahat. And then the other last 5 characters, I guess between naman sa kanila, ang pinaka excited ako na parang malabas ko is yun si Pink and si Baby Blue, dahil sila talaga yung parang pinaka nag-survey ako na major sa stories ng mga tao na related doon. Kaya, ayan.
So, I'm excited to hear their stories as well. Kasi parang I found 556. Si 556 is the blue character, and the Dracula story were one of my favorites for that series too. And you can watch that in Versaqueer. If ever you haven't seen the story narrations of that, it's all in Versaqueer. Then, so ayun lang. And I'm excited to hear the stories of the community through the next set B, parang ganun.
Yes.
Ayun, next naman, parang, JM, how are you doing? I know kasi you posted naman on, parang you're very adamant on voter registration. So nakita ko yung mga post mo na sunod na parang voter registration, you're also interviewing for that. How are you doing right now? Maghihintay po tayo ng lag or ako lang hindi makarinig.
Field reporter
yes,
ngayon,
like,
guys.
Ayan na.
Ayun na, ayun na.
recently, may parang, what they call this, parang infomercial. Oh, wait. Am I audible po ba?
Yes, go.
Yes.
Ayan. I think may delay po. Oo, parang field reporter lang ako, may delay gan. Pero naririnig naman po ako. So, yun, parang I've been interviewed by one of my friends in Rappler about voter registration for 2022 elections because it's very important, right? Specifically about youth participation because, yeah, mahalaga yung boto natin.
Ayun.
Shoutout po sa
Thank-
aso.
Shout out po sa aso.
Hello po.
At least we could hear more of... Decepticon pa rin ba ako? To confirm.
Kind of, actually, yeah.
Anyways, we have to deal with it. I'll try to speak slowly and Mike can
Yes.
take over afterwards. So, ayun. Next naman is Mickey. Parang, Mickey, I'm really curious, how did you feel after you got the second runner-up of Miss Trans Global Philippines? Kasi this was a second leg. Diba?
Yeah.
Parang the first one was Miss Mel Hazuban and you were part of the second appearance of Miss Trans Global. How did you feel after?
I was really shocked. Kasi parang, I saw Ate Mela join last year. And then I was so encouraged to join. Because, to be honest, even before we both transitioned, Mela was already one of my idols in life kasi we kind of worked together for the office of the vice president. So may mga interactions na talaga kami. Tapos nakita ko nga na sumali siya. And then I said, Ate Mela didn't have much experience when it comes to pageantry. So I really wanted to, try it out because medyo napapasali-sali na ako before. So nung January this year, they like posted an opening na for those people who would like to join. You guys can join, but there's gonna be like a certain registration fee, and I'm not sure how much was that, but it's about like 7,500 if you're gonna like convert it to Philippine peso. So I was like, hasali ba ako? Kasi, it's a huge amount of money, and you can file for sponsorship, but I was thinking they might decline me kasi they would say that I have a job. Bakit ako magsa-sponsorship? Siyempre, bibigay na lang natin yun sa mga nangangailangan talaga ng sponsorship. So I paused, and then after that, I didn't hear anything about Miss Trans Global Philippines until they posted in May. So nung nakita ko nung May, it was like free for all who would like to join. Being someone who knows Ate Mela, I was just like, out of courtesy, I joined. Because I was like thinking, if you're gonna be really advocating, it doesn't necessarily have to be in a pageant platform. And thank you po, Sir Will. So ayun, I wasn't expecting to be part of it, so I kind of like just complied to it. That's I was surprised to be part of the top 25. Tapos sabi ko, hindi naman ako papasok nito ng top 15 kasi sobrang tatalino ng other girls and they're like so eloquent, sobrang gagaling, sobrang gaganda. Tapos ayun na, nagulat na lang ako pumasok. Sabi ko nga, wala din. I thank you, Zaya. Sorry, nababasa ko kasi.
Ay, sorry.
Sorry. Medyo ako eh. Tapos ayun, so sobrang cloud nine lang talaga. Kasi after that, even though you were so busy because of,
Mhm.
the engagements,
Mhm.
you're given the platform you want eh. So actually, ang hirap ng tanong ng kamusta ka. Pero,
Um,
'di ba, parang napakasimple pero isa sa mga napakahirap na tanong. Kayo, kamusta kayo? Mikey and Lance?
wow,
Wow,
binato sa
good
akin.
segue.
I know.
Actually, kami na yung host. Char.
Ayan. So nag-walk out sila, sa akin yung sagutin. Char. So, it's very true, no? Parang it seems deceptively simple, but the way that you, I guess, receive the question, or let's say the way that you understand the question, will also factor into how you respond to the question. Like you can take it from an emotional perspective, you can take it from a professional perspective, you can also take it from a, oh, we're not close, so I'm not gonna say anything except I'm fine. Yung mga ganung bagay, diba? Pero, well, work has been keeping us busy, me, Lance, and the rest of the Bruja guys. So we are staying productive. That's one thing that I can say. But I'm not. I'm also going to say that it hasn't been the most easy year and a half. Diba? I think
It's
we've
true.
all experienced that,
Yes.
and we've done a lot of things to be able to, let's say, get out of the rut that we experience every day. May term na nga yun, di ba? Parang people are languishing. Parang they're just staying home and they're not really being productive, or they feel like a sense of limbo. Like everything is just static. And the same day in and out, they just bleed into each other. Di ba? Mga ganun bagay. So, just taking it one day at a time and enjoying moments of clarity and maybe moments of, let's say, interaction, just like this.
Very
So
important.
overall, I'm doing pretty well. Thank you so much for asking. Ang dami ko nasabi. Host ako, di ba?
And I thank you,
And
Char.
I. Thank you. Yes. Ayan. Oy, Jay Minion says, congrats kay Idol. At kay Miss Nikki sa cast announcement. Yan. And what does this mean? May baka. Oh, yeah. Parang may mooing kanina. Narinig mo ba yun? Parang, ano ba yun? May umuungol na baka. All right. So while we're waiting for, okay, Lance to pop back in. Oh, I think he's back. Let's try.
Yes, I'm hoping my audio is not Decepticon today.
Kaya
Medyo
today,
ganun pa
Kuya
rin.
Lance.
Pero laban lang, laban.
Yes, Mikey.
Ikaw, how are you daw? Mickey is asking.
Oh, I'm better. Good. Generally okay. I was worse. I felt medyo mahirap last week kasi it was month end, quarter end month end in my line of work. So, at least nakakahinga ngayon.
Sometimes that's all we need.
Yeah.
All right. So thank you for asking that question. I hope you guys are fine. Sorry, I'm kind of doing multiple things. So was everyone able to answer that or no?
Yes, I think everyone was able to answer that. Yeah.
Okay. So laban na tayo.
Oh, laban na tayo. Now we'll bring it on like Boy Buntagan. But I won't ask his question yet. Pero, kasi we've talked about the past in our first series, and it was all about the violent history, about queer cinema from Dolphy to Roderick Paulate to the bathhouse to intersex, and what else we talked? Mamu. So that's a rough
Yeah.
preview of what we talked about. Pero for your experience, because we all have different backgrounds, like again, I grew up in a different period, and especially in queer media cinema. So what have you learned, or what were your learnings and biggest takeaways from the past? It could come from any specific period, or it could be from my personal experience, especially when it's talking about queer media or the LGBT community. It could come from any specific period. Well, Alan, let's go first.
Ay, oh my God ako. Sige. Char. Okay, so, I
Thank you
guess
for that wonderful question.
Thank you for the char. It is beautiful. I understood it really clear.
A man with few words, Char. Hindi, ano yan. Sa akin kasi, I guess, pagdating sa queer media, specifically like mga BL, ang laki ng impact sa buhay ko. Like, no biro kasi I guess nagsimula lahat ng creation ni Allen, yun alter ko na to. So ever since na parang nahook ako sa Game Boys, parang nandyan na yung drive, parang it lit up something in me na parang yung drive na I want to interact with the community that I see myself in. And then thanks to like queer media, ayan, unti-unting steps ko, I've met like a lot of people, tapos I've grown to like love myself enough to finally have that parang self-coming out na parang ay bakla talaga ako and I am proud na ganyan. So very helpful na parang it's very helpful in my sense lalo pa sa time na yan na parang ang low ko due to a lot of personal problems. So it really helps na parang I have this thing that I can relate to, and at the same time I've met a lot of people who also relates to my story and who I can also share with it about. And then eto ngayon staying like eto na ngayon parang mas ang dami ko na mga personal projects na ginagawa na parang excited ako na ma-work on pa, and then eto as usual pa rin gumaganda pa lalo and this is Alan Gonzaga, and I thank you.
Ay, intimidating. So, kailangan mag-start ng and I believe and end with and I thank you. So, handa ka na ba, JM?
Handa na yan.
Oo, handa na yan. It's your turn, JM.
Ayan, teka.
Ayan.
So, ito ang
May
aking
delay pa rin po
tutorial.
ba?
Oo, handa na yan. Oo. It's your turn, JM.
But go ahead.
Feeling ko
That's
may
okay.
delay pa rin po. Mga 10 seconds na delay.
May delay pa rin po ba?
Pero to answer the question, I think yung greatest learning na nakuha ko from queer media of yesteryears is I discovered the nuances of different LGBT in the spectrum. Like, diba, it's not naman possible that your friends are belonging in the part of a certain part of the community. So it's important for us to be exposed to different LGBT personalities in order to understand specific nuances. So ayun po yung nakuha ko in the queer media. Like, even if I don't have a friend who has this specific soji, I understand where this person is coming from, or understand better what do we exactly mean by, for example, asexuality or soji that is not that um, familiar to us, or we do not have a friend who has that kind of soji. So yeah, I think naging mas aware ako of different spectrum of the community.
Ah, nice.
Oh, nandito
And
pa
I
rin.
thank
And I
you.
thank you. Ayun. Diba?
Sabay. Ayos.
I love it.
Requirement na pala yan.
Oo. Sinimulan mo kasi, Allen, kaya ganun.
Siyempre.
Oo eh. Ikaw naman eh. Oh, go.
Oo. From one debater to a beauty queen. So, what have you learned? What's your greatest learning from yesteryear? I think mostly I would love to hear your answer on this because there is very little trans representation, especially in the yesteryear period. We only see the gender fluidity of it, but not specifically that trans representation.
Ang hirap namang i-top yung answers ng dalawa na to. Pero, oo eh, masyadong ano eh. But, I think I have like at least 2 points, in terms of learnings. First, I think that there's more variety when it comes to being well represented nowadays. Because before we are limited to what is seen on the mainstream media, but right now we have grown to having social media platforms. We have grown to having other platforms beside the mainstream media. So yung pagka-scatter ng representation, yung pagka-scatter ng availability, it's there. Also, I used to think that Because, just a quick background, I used to identify as a gay man for 29 years. So I only started
Wow.
transitioning
Ooh.
last year, May of 2020. That's when I started transitioning. So I used to identify as a gay man, pero I joined gay pageants. I do modeling as a female, persona, ganyan. So, with the previous media available, like queer media available, I didn't have enough. I didn't have enough. Ano ba? Paano ba sabihin? I didn't have enough, availability to actually discover myself. Kasi ito lang yung napapanood ko eh. Um, ito lang yung nakikita ko. Ito lang yung nakikita ng mga tao. Ito lang yung nakikita ng mga kasama ko, ng mga kaibigan ko. So parang I have to be, boxed within that specific persona, which is gladly changing nowadays because
Mhm.
we are, getting more diverse in representation. And ayun nga, siguro my second point naman from what I am, discovering is nowadays we don't just get represented for the sake of being represented. Nowadays we are being appropriately represented. Kasi parang I have this belief kasi na if you're gonna play, if you're gonna show a gay character, why don't you ask a gay actor to play the part? Because otherwise, he wouldn't know what are the things that gay person does. So basically, hindi magiging ganun ka-authentic yung lalabas doon sa pelikula or doon sa kung ano man yung mapapanood nila. Bakit hindi isang trans ang ipaganap sa isang trans character na marami naman tayo, hitik na hitik tayo sa mga napaka-talentadong mga trans people, 'di ba? Same goes with lesbian people. So I think that's one of the greatest development and learnings that I have is that we're no longer queer baiting, if you're familiar with the term. Like lesser and lesser people are, queer baiting. Maaaring hindi pa rin nabibigay para sa tao ng komunidad yung mga nararapat na role para sa kanila. But I understand that, basically show business is still a business. But even though, hindi pa rin ganong kalaki yung naibibigay na oportunidad, these straight people portraying the character are more well-versed when it comes to the character. Soji, yung hugot, yung pinanggagalingan ng character. So I think those are the two things. I don't want to focus na on the bad things that that we usually notice na eh. Kasi andito na tayo eh. Meron ng good things eh. So yeah, I think those are my 2 points.
Siguro I have a follow-up question for you, Miki. Because you mentioned that you only started transitioning last year. So I was wondering what sparked that change?
Well, before I finally decided and came out, as a trans woman, basically, I have had much thought about it already. Because si Ate Mela, I don't know exactly kung saang lugar, but she told me her story. She went abroad and she dressed as a girl, as a woman for one whole day. And that's how she discovered Mela. And I was like thinking to myself, every time I join gay pageants, I basically dress as a woman. I act like a woman. I am a woman. I even use a woman's name during these times. Why do I feel more comfortable when I'm dressed like that? And I think at the back of my mind, I have always known that I am basically a trans woman, but because, of the purpose of being marketable, para magka-jowa ka, para maging mas acceptable ka, mas mukha kang decenteng tignan, you put it up and you kind of like block yourself and say that you're not really a trans woman, maybe you're just gay. Ganyan.
Okay.
So
Mhm.
yeah. Did I answer your question, Mikey?
Yeah, thank you for doing that, and I appreciate it. I know it's something very
Thank
personal,
you.
but thank you for sharing that with us. And I, on some level, I also relate to what you're saying. Diba? Parang sometimes we comport ourselves to behave or to look a certain way because we want to appear more attractive or we want to appear more, what do you call it? Acceptable to other people. Diba?
Mhm.
Kasi especially for people who do not understand trans uh, people, di ba? Parang ang masasabi lang naman nila, oh, nagdadamit pa ba lang naman talaga, pero lalaki talaga yan, right? So for you who feel that sort of fresh societal pressure and all of the maybe the criticism from other people saying that you are not who you are, then syempre you have to change things about yourself, di ba? And that can be very taxing and that can be a very
Yeah.
arduous journey. So I'm glad that you were able to finally, well, you decided to finally come out and to be who you are. So
Yes.
kudos to you on that. Appreciate that. Yeah. Siguro last if okay lang, I also have a follow-up question for, well, this is for everyone as well, but I guess I'll start with Alan. Because you guys mentioned what you're learning to work from Get Your Years Queer Media. So I was wondering, what was the one thing, let's say the one movie or series or scene that sort of like was your awakening? Oh, eto na, bakla talaga ako. Ganon. nung nakita nyo yun, alam nyo, yeah. If you can remember. If not, then what was the most impactful?
Mhm.
Yun. Alan, go ahead.
Wait. So, pagdating to sa like awakening, what made me like realize na ganyan ako. Ganyang bata ko
Mm.
ba?
Yes.
Oo.
Okay, so I guess medyo like actually batang-bata ko pa na-realize na parang bakla ako kasi nang ano yan, when I had my first crush talaga nga. When I had my first crush which was a classmate of mine.
Okay.
I was grade 2 by then and then parang nang nalaman ko na crush ko siya, parang hindi ko naranasan yun, yung parang yun, hala, ano tong feeling, ganyan-ganyan. Parang tinanggap ko na agad na, ay, crush ko siya, ganyan, may feelings ako sa kanya. Kasi sa time na yan, laking Disney ako. So parang I treated that
Mhm.
love to that person na
Okay.
parang, oh, this is the same love I see in those movies in Disney with Cinderella and Prince Charming, with Ariel, and parang ganyan. Ayan yung tingin ko. And then, parang diyan ko na-realize na parang, bakla ako and wala akong pake. The only time na parang I had doubts was when I reached like high school. Kasi due to like personal things na nangyari, parang diyan ko na sinisimulan yung questioning na parang, eto ba nga talaga ba naramdaman ko is something na dapat lang talaga. And I had that whole phase na parang I tried to convince myself na parang hindi, bi ka, ganyan, bisexual ka, ganyan. Tapos ginagawa ko
Mhm.
lahat para ma-attract ako sa babae. Like, both physically, sexually, mentally. Ginawa ko lahat para nandiyan yan. Kasi in my head, it feels like na parang I can still live like the normal life if I can fall in love with a woman. So, ayun
Mhm.
yung naging flow. And then, I guess parang, yung pinaka like, nag-solidify nga sa akin na parang, hindi, sure ako, bakla ako. And na proud ako maging bakla. Was actually, I rewatched GSP sa time na yan. And yung pagdating
Okay.
kay Carl, and kay, yun, usapan nila ni Ana and ni Carl, na parang yun, pagdating sa like, you're in your safe space, na parang, ano yan, yun, yung kumbaga yun sinasabi na ano yan, how long will you stay in that safe zone? Or parang ganyan. Diyan ko na-realize na parang
Mhm. Okay.
na I've been denying who I am for the longest time. And I am tired of denying it. Kasi kita ko nga sa sarili ko parang major na yung pag-e-effort ko, major na yung pagod ko para na ma-keep up ko yung image na yan na gusto ko sa sarili ko. And then,
Right.
ayun, nag-post ako na parang, I am gay, I am proud, I'm still in the closet, but that will never invalidate the fact that I am happy with who I am. Tapos, ayan, the journey just
Right.
went on from there.
Nice. And so happy that you're here with us and sharing your story with us. Thank you very much, Alan. Sige, si JM naman.
Uh, when it comes to awakening, feeling ko po kasi it's really case to case, subjective, depending on the personality of the person or the environment that they are in.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
while I have heard stories where people were awakened by a specific media, I think my case is quite different because wala po akong ma-pinpoint na specific media content that I think awakened me because I think my journey is it's a process and I can't like attribute it to a specific media content. And
Okay.
if my media content na I think is very crucial in my awakening, I don't think it is the turning point. I just think it's the my way of having a relatable media wherein
Mhm.
my feelings are validated. But I don't think that
Mhm.
it awakened me. It's just that it validated me. So yeah, I think it's really case to case.
Right. But if there is one thing that you would say sort of like had a lot of impact on how you see yourself or maybe on how you understand the world, the community as a whole, what would that be? In a movie or a series?
Hmm. I'm having a hard time remembering the title. Pero I think I had watched this BL, parang Pinoy BL siya.
Mm-hmm.
And it was released 2017 around that year on YouTube.
Okay.
I forgot the title. But yeah, I think
Oh, what
those
it's
kinds of
about?
What
media.
was the plot?
Uh-huh.
I think it's about gay dating on a specific app. Yeah. So parang it talks about these kinds of communities happening online and how relationships can be built on those kinds of atmosphere or environment.
Mm.
Mm,
If you remember the title,
I
let us know. Huh? I'm curious about
sige,
what it is.
sige. Hanapin ko
there's
nga.
really
Naman
two
yun
in
yung
my mind.
load.
Oh, it could be yours and Hannah, or it could be hanging
Yeah,
out. So it's one of those two.
it
I
might
think
be
it's
hanging out.
Hangout. Yeah. Yeah,
Hanging
yeah.
out, yes. That was released in 2017. Truth be told, I think that was the first, I think legit Pinoy BL web series. It was done by Team Magazine, and I remember
Yeah.
I watched it because it was so interesting. Alam mo yun? Parang ganun. Yeah. But yeah, hanging
Yes.
out,
I
definitely.
remember, ito yung time na wala pang rise of Pinoy BL na. So
Correct, correct,
parang
correct.
it's a big, parang it's very fresh media content. Kasi wala pang rise of these kinds of content. And then we see these kinds of series on YouTube. Yeah.
Right. It
So
was the first of its kind, actually.
it's very fresh.
And they also did a little something, which I think was only like 3 episodes, pero they started doing something like blind dating, wherein it was male and male dates. Alam mo yun? So parang that wasn't done before. So again, that was something
Yeah.
different. But I think T Magazine closed for some reason, so parang they stopped production. And there was no season 2 for Hanging Out. But yeah, let's just
Sadly.
read. Yeah, let's just read what Yub Sawada said. The struggle of accepting who you really are is a process and it's hard, but the relief is overwhelming. And that is very, very true. I think part of the reason why when we accept ourselves, it can be quite a relief is because one of the hardest things that a person can go through is to struggle accepting who they are. And once you accept yourself, then of course that lifts a burden on you, off of you rather, and then you just feel better all around. Yeah. Okay. Welcome back, Lance. Okay, see, Mickey
And
naman. If there was
yeah,
one,
if I may
yes,
add,
them, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Yeah, kasi nagustuhan ko po yung sinabi, nakalimutan ko po yung nag-comment. But yeah, it's a process and yung queer media content, it's very important in the process because as what I said earlier, it really validates our feelings that we feel like are very different. So yeah,
Mhm.
it's very crucial in the process po talaga of accepting.
Yeah, very true.
Yes, yeah.
Ganda ng comment, no? Yes. Sige, si Mickey naman.
Yeah, gusto ko lang batiin si Yubes. He's actually my friend. He's one of my
Hi.
closest friends. Yeah. Thank you for watching News, Char. Host talaga.
Shadow takeover
Yes.
pala to.
Laban
Sorry.
lang, laban lang.
Um, I'm not sure if I still remember what Alan said, but I also struggled in basically trying to act like I wasn't like this. Parang I used to be youth pastor. So imagine the pressure that I had back then. So there were girls I liked, pero I was never really physically attracted to them. It's like you could love them more than friends, less than lovers, but you can
Yeah.
never be, you know, um, physically
Physically
intimate with them.
intimate. Yeah.
And then in terms with the question, like what was the movie or series that had my awakening? I think I have always known, like at a very young age, that I'm not straight. At least, it has been a journey of discovering who I am. It wasn't like a one time thing. Pero siguro, if there is one movie that has awakened my katawang lupa,
Taray, katawan lupa.
yeah, may katawang lupa talaga ha. You guys would agree to this because I caught you guys talking about this the last time on your first episode.
Okay.
Saguan.
Oo, sagwan.
Oh my
Sagwan. Sagwan has really brought me, thinking like, where is this place? Does this place really exist? Parang super, I don't know, super. I'm sorry if I'm gonna. Is it okay? Can I be a little,
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
Ang lakas pa ka Diego Sanz kasi nung parang.
I think, oh my
Ay.
God.
I'm sorry. Oh my God, I'm a beauty queen. I forgot. But
Parang ako din yung my name. Teka.
yeah, so it has awakened my katawang lupa talaga for as long as I can remember. Kasi yun yung una kong napanood eh. I won't forget that kasi I watched that in my best friend's house, and because we both know we're already identifying as non-straight. Pero nag-ano talaga kami, nagtatago kami dun sa sala nila kasi yung mother niya ng best friend ko andun lang sa may terrace. So parang manonood kami nun pero it has to be discreet, and then you have to be dati DVD pa, 'di ba? Wala naman yung mga ganitong Netflix na isang pindot lang.
Yeah.
Sorry, medyo matanda na kasi ako eh. So I'm old. I'm very old.
Not compared to me, honey.
Not compared to...
You guys look younger than me anyway, so.
Grabe
Ayun,
siya.
tapos ano naman, when it comes to because I feel like I need to talk about the trans background naman that has awakened me. I don't know if you remember, but there's this like Chinese movie, not Chinese. Ayaw pala natin sa China. Sorry.
I love it.
Japanese.
The shade.
Aishitemas. Aishiteru.
Aishitemas.
H2?
Is it Aishitemas?
I think it's
There was
Aishiteru.
like there was like a trans there that has fallen in love with the Japanese soldier.
Who played
I don't
the
know if
trans
I'm
character?
remembering it right.
Yeah,
But,
I think it's Aishitemas. Yeah.
Wait lang. Hanapin ko. Yeah,
Siya.
Aishitemas. Yun, Aishitemas nga. Yan. Sobrang ano ako doon. Parang sabi ko, why can't I be that person? Parang dati nga before panahon pa ng Hapon. This kind of people exist. Trans people exist and they have their own love stories. Diba? Parang sabi ko, why can't that happen to me? Why can't I, be freely be a trans woman? Parang ganon. Pero hindi. Balik tayo sa pagka-marketable. We have to be someone that, everyone around us can tolerate. Ganon. Ganon yung mentality ko. So those two movies for me.
Nice. Interesting. Super diverse
Sagwan.
talaga ng ano natin. Ano?
Oo nga eh.
Actually,
We have...
marami pa yun eh. Maraming contemporaryo yun. If you remember.
Oo.
Yes.
Yung mga
Kaya lang kasi
one,
baka hindi makasabay si JM. Baby pa si JM eh.
baby pa sila. Sila pareho actually.
Ay,
Oo,
teka,
yeah.
so di na ako baby? Oh my God.
Pwede well first.
Ay, sorry,
So
Allen.
you're well first.
I mean, innocent. Ayun na. Ayan. Lance. Okay pa, Lance? Okay pa, Lance?
Ang tanong, Decepticon pa ba ako o hindi na?
Hindi na! Yeah!
Hindi na
Yay! Effective.
Pagkain na.
Yes, thank you so much. Pero, Mikey, what was yours? Do you remember yours?
Oh my God.
Your...
Excited ako sa sagot ni Mikey.
Oy, alam mo, I can't really remember siguro the first ever one, but I do remember this. I forgot the movie because I already identified as a gay man during that time, but when I first saw Colin Farrell come on screen in that war movie, looking all
Gladiator?
no, it was a war movie like World War II kind of movie with Bruce Willis
Okay.
and I forgot the name of the title of the movie. But then I think that's one of the strongest like feelings I ever got, ever. I remember it to this day, but I don't remember the title, which is kind of sad. But I remember seeing him and I was like, oh my god, can I just
Go.
X-rated. Oh my god. Ayan.
Pero mga
I
bata
think one of the
ngayon,
things-
umalis na kayo. Char.
okay lang yan. Pero,
Okay lang yan.
ano, one of the first, I think in terms of career media, one of the things that I really remember that really got me hooked onto BLs was Love of Siam. And that movie, to this day, I will never get tired of. Like, seriously. Call it cliche or, commonplace, pero super talaga. Mario Moore, New Tong, oh my God. Like,
Yes. Yes.
grabe. Super lakas ng impact nun sa akin. And that's when I stumbled onto the Thai BLs, started watching Lovesick and all of that. So, yeah. Hearts War! Yes! That's right! Yes, PHTV. Hearts War. Yes! That's it. Absolutely.
Wow. To answer the same question, mine was, I think, when I started questioning what I like, when I started to see Baywatch, there was this blonde light. So parang,
Yeah,
teka
di
lang.
pa pansin ng mga edara.
I know, sorry naman. And
Okay.
even add more to my age, it was during the Baywatch David Hasselhoff. So there was a new character, he was blonde. So parang, okay. Pero I think,
Shaking.
yes. Pero like yours, Mikey, parang I realized na I understood what Mickey was going through. Kasi feeling ko I was out of place as well. Kasi the only image that we grew up with was Vice Ganda. Or parang ganun, that kind of imagery. Dolphy, Vice Ganda, Pagregortic, natin to fit into that mold, kumbaga. And when I saw Love of Siam, parang I realized, wait, I could fit in another mold and be myself. Kasi Love of Siam were just two boys falling in love. Kaya tumatak sa akin yun.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot more that we can talk about.
I know.
But yeah, we gotta be careful. So,
I
medyo
know.
maaga pa. Ayan. So, siguro we can move on to this next topic here. Nice.
Yep. Reflections on today. Kasi today's landscape naman, I think most of you are aware. I think most of you are indulging on today's landscape. It's all BL. It's boys love. That's one of the major things that we have right now. So, what kind of stories? How do you perceive BL? How do you perceive the movement of that right now? Or how are you consuming it also? Allen, since ikaw yung kailan ko pinakamalaki ang consumerism nito, you draw them also. So, besides
Teka.
drawing, how do you consume BL?
Teka, palagi una.
Oh, favorite ka eh.
Ano, hirap pala maging favorite. Char. Okay,
Yes.
so ano, what other way ako nagko-consume ng
Or
BL, tama ba?
how does the BL sit with you right now? Or how do you feel of this movement ngayon when it comes to boys love?
I guess like pagdating sa boys love, I guess sa to reference sa sinabi ni JM na parang it validates. I guess ayun yung tingin ko like sa BL ngayon, parang it's a validation that a lot of like I guess hindi makarelate ata lahat dito, pero the BL movement is the validation a lot of queer kids need to see, kasi ayun nga, meron ako mga naririnig mga stories na parang sa mga mas matatanda sa akin, ang struggle nila is that nang bata sila, hindi sila sigurado if what they are feeling is actually like, if parang something kung sila lang talaga nakakaranas. So, I think ayan yung parang isa kong tingin sa BL community. It's the validation the youths need. And other than that, yung paano ko kinoconsume, other than through sa aking art, I guess ang isang way ko pa na pag-consume sa BL din, yung kanilang music, kasi I don't know for me, kasi iba yung tama na music ng BL, lalo pa sa Game Boys example, like, hindi ko kaya pakinggan ang buong playlist pag hindi ko kaya mag-inarte sa shower at umiyak at magdrama. Parang, oh my God.
Mag-walling ka.
Oo,
Pagpaling ka ala Fury of Love lang, mga ganun. Pero slow mo pa yan.
Oo, kasi lalo pa nga sa akin na parang, kumbaga yung BL kasi para sa akin, yung tingin ko dyan, it's, those love stories are the one that I want to experience. The ones that I wish I can, parang, kumbaga yung BL, sila yung mga things na parang wish ko maranasan ko ngayon. Unfortunately, I'm in the closet, so all I can do is just imagine myself in that scenario of those series that I watched. Ayan. So, parang ganun. And I thank you. Ayan, okay.
Inantay ko talaga yun. Sorry naman. Simulan mo yun eh.
Akala ko nag-lag na naman sila.
Ay, hindi po.
Yes.
Yes, and I think I want to also ask JM kasi I'm not sure ikaw I think you were discussing before na you tackled BL in a thesis perspective, and you have a friend also who did that as well. So what's your take on BL now?
Yeah, like, gusto ko yung framing ng question. Like, you said that BL movement, your take on BL movement. Because I like the word movement to describe what is BL industry now. Because a movement is something that is growing and adaptive to social demands. So, yeah, I think the BL is growing right now. Na parang, kasi ang dami nating kilala na may BL umay. Kasi sobrang,
Yeah.
I think the word is ubiquitous. Sobrang, what do you call this? Oversaturated, or like not oversaturated, but saturated in a way that it's
Yeah.
a desensitized topic, because ang dami ng BL content on Netflix, on YouTube, everywhere. So I think BL now is growing in a way that it is being challenged to innovate and to bring fresh ideas or perspective. And ang dami ng present BLs ngayon na that tackles, I think, not mass-to-mass relationship. Kasi di ba yung nung unang days of the BL rise, yung mga twilight ng BL pa lang, parang ang common criticism is that it's just a mass-to-mass relationship lagi. So what are paano naman yung representations of other LGBT people, right? So I think now there are certain apparent efforts from the BL industry or the BL movement to somehow cater to these kinds of representation. And yeah, I think dun ko nakikita yung BL now. It's very adaptive to the demands of the community. And it's not just a mere entertainment. It's really about the representation.
Yeah. So I
And
like
I
that you
thank
brought
you,
that up.
yes. Yun ba yun? Ano?
Hindi magsasalita sila hanggat naririnig niya, no? Pero I think you bring up a good point. And let me just explore this a little bit, or at least share something a little bit about it. Because when the Pinoy BL wave started, it started with Game Boys. I mean, that was really it, no? But then Game Boys came out in May 2020. And there was another web series actually that was aired before that, but it wasn't really aired on YouTube. It was aired on Facebook, and it starred a femme gender queer character played by EJ Halyurina, and it was called My Troll Lover. Pero I think the reason why it wasn't as noticed, I guess, is maybe it can be several things. It can be maybe a lack of um, promotion or maybe a lack of word of mouth. But another reason could be maybe because yun nga, it stars a femme genderqueer character. So I think that JM brings up a good point there. Now we are seeing representation these days, but we can do more of representing those underrepresented subgroups in the spectrum. I mean, in terms of trans or femme characters, we are seeing more. And, we have, for example, The Boy Foretold by the Stars, which is very popular and which now spawned a series, right? And was also awarded in the MMFF for a Gender Sensitivity Award. Diba? And then we have Mamu, right? AJ Halyurina as well.
Yes. Also another from EJ Halyurina. We also have been Next Gen Forever, wherein they tackled halos the whole
Correct.
spectrum. We have the polyamorous relationship. We see the trans story as well. So there's a lot of layers when it comes to that too. And feeling ko why my troll lover hindi masyadong kinagat because Together didn't appear. The wave of Together didn't appear yet during that time. So
That's
parang
true.
it has to go with the global market and demand as well. So we're playing with that too. Diba?
True. But I like na yun nga eh. Parang we are seeing more femme characters. Like for example, as well, si Achilles sa Game Boy, si Fonzie sa Pearl Next Door. And also, I think we have some gay side characters as well in Omando. I forgot the name. Pero yun
Yes.
nga eh. There was a trans teacher, right? So
Yes.
yeah, I mean, but sana this movement just becomes stronger and more diverse.
Oo. Kaya nga,
So,
I'm excited for their show, for JM and Mickey's show. Kasi they're going to be showing another side of a spectrum, which is the asexual side. So, USPHTV, kudos sa inyo. Kasi you're telling another side of the story that's really rarely tackled. Diba? And it's like,
Right.
I like Rekka's statement yesterday na hindi porket asexual yung tao doesn't mean that they can't fall in love. But they can.
Right.
It's just that it's
Right.
different.
Mhm. That's true.
They find
And just because-
connections in different ways, or they find it in a different way. Ganun.
Right. And just because you don't understand it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist or it's not.
And
valid.
just to add on that,
Yeah.
Go there.
yeah, sorry,
Yes, yes.
naglalag ako talaga. Ang
Okay lang.
delay. Pero like, just to add on the technical thing sa project na ni Maring Reka, sa script na sinulat ni Maring Reka, I think it's very important kasi to represent the asexuality spectrum or the side of the spectrum. Because if we look at the BL content or the BL media now, I think it's mostly centered on the sexuality of the actors or like how they are in bed, for example. So feeling ko may rise of sexualized characters. So I think it's very important to have this fresh perspective na not all part of the queer community should be treated like that or acts that way. So yeah, I think it's very fresh in a way that, di ba, it's different naman na hindi lahat about that. It's just not
Exactly.
about sex but also romance.
Yes.
Actually,
Yes,
din,
Mickey.
Yes, Mickey.
Yes, Mickey.
Sorry, I think Allen would wipe.
Hindi, ikaw muna, Mickey.
Ayun. Yes, I would like to support JM's answer then. Not because we're part of it. I mean, that aside. Kasi that's right. We are, the BL movement, despite of its other, advocacies, it is being overly sexualized. Parang kapag nagkaroon ng tambalan, sino yung top, sino yung bottom, right? There's always that kind of mindset already. And we forget that, in the spectrum of the colors of the rainbows, love is love. And so people who are actually asexual, that actually exist, can also be, capable of loving and, also deserve the same love. So Yeah, that's the kind of thing that we will be unraveling. Relax, unraveling. Hindi ko kayang ano, tumbasan yung mga,
So,
yung
the big
vocabs
Naguloy mo na
dyan.
ng big words.
Oo, the juxtaposition of two people falling in love. So, let's see,
Oo.
mga ganun.
Correct. Or maybe
Pero,
we can, yeah, Lance.
yeah, Alan.
Ano yung gusto ko
Yes, Alan
pala
muna.
din magbigay, lalo pa pagdating sa representation. I guess, lalo pa sa case ko na parang closeted ako. Well, I guess, one of the many things na parang pinaka-paborito ko is character design. Kasi parang, a lot can be said about a certain character. Like, if someone relates that character very special, and then, one of the many things I always do na parang pag nagde-design ako ng character is that I want to make sure na parang, if ever it is something that relates to a certain story, I want to listen to the people who parang yun nakaka-relate sa stories. And so, for example, one of the characters that I'm designing right now is a transgendered woman. So, isa sa ginawa ko is that I know that that's not my experience. I don't know, parang the only thing I can do is parang kumbaga hindi ko nararanasan yung personally. That's why I decide to interview multiple trans women to hear their story and formulate like a character around it. Kasi parang media is very important in the sense that if someone relates to that character, it can empower them so much. Kaya it's very important that the characters that I always design, the characters that I always create, even as Allen or even as my real self, it always like parang it makes you feel that it's an actual living person na ganyan. Kasi the reason na ano the reason why we are viewed as a minority because we don't have enough representation. In actuality, we've always been there. We were never gone. Hindi tayo biglang nagpaturo sa world na ito. We've always been there. And the reason why people think that we don't exist is because we lack these stories, we lack the representation. Kaya lalo pa sa case ko, it's very important for me, even as someone closeted, na parang I'll keep on like creating character stories, art that will serve as either a representation or at least will give out the message people from the community want ganon, yung gusto maipadala sa daigdig. O, sige yan.
Yes.
Para
The
mabigyan
universe,
tayo.
rather. Ganun eh.
Yes, kasi, ayun nga, we want an auspicious future. Char, auspicious!
Auspicious. Nung may laban sa ubiquitos ni JM, iba to.
Hello. Pero ayun yung parang yung case ko doon.
Mm-hmm. Yun, ayun nga, ang ganda nga dun eh. Kasi, I think you also heard, I think you were there, Alan, when we were talking to Denise. She's an ally who's writing queer stories as well. For allies, parang, while the people of the community cannot write or haven't those opportunities, parang sinasabi niya, let's write for them responsibly. Parang ganun yung tone niya eh. Let's write for them as if they're human beings, so can tell their stories, so that the future generation can tell their own stories. I think that was the message ni Denise noon. And I'm curious though, Mickey, parang would that be a movement? Although you're saying a while ago that it's overly sexualized, although there are still some who fall into the trap of the top and bottom. There are some actors na straight, unfortunately, who would not align with the same politics and message of the BL story. Is there a light? Do you still see the light of this movement?
Definitely, Lance, no? Kasi, through the years, different movements naman, not only, the equality or non-discrimination or SOJ movement, it has always been given, different colors. It has always been, sorry, I got a message. Ayan, it has always, parang, sorry, nawawala yung words ko. Sabi kasi na pag binabasa ako na message.
Sorry.
Hindi, may nag-message kasi sa akin dito sa office, sorry. Ayun, so parang lagi naman siyang mahahaluan at mahahaluan. But the most important thing is we always go back and we always review the genuineness and the authenticity of, the goal. Kasi imposibleng mawalan niya ng advocacy eh. Imposibleng pera lang yung magiging parang pinaka-partake nung kung ano mang palabas yon. There will always be something people could get a lesson from. Kaya nga lagi to answer your earlier question, paano mo ba parang kina-categorize yung mga BL series and BL movies? So it's very important to review, kasi I have seen a lot of BL series na meron talagang aral na kapupulutan, hindi lamang yung mga tao sa komunidad pati yung mga taong nasa outside ng community. They will be able to get a piece of information kung paano mas maiintindihin nila yung mga taong pinoportray ng characters. So ayun, lagi kong chine-check kapag nanonood ako. Una sa lahat, actually medyo nag-prepare ako dito kanina.
Yes.
Yes.
Love it.
Laban.
So una sa lahat, Miki, tuturan ba ang aral na mapupulot doon?
Gusto ko yan.
Other branding.
Miki, tuturan ba yung aral? Kasi, if it's just like a random, a random story of two guys having sex, I think we have enough of that in porn.
Yeah.
Diba? And that's pretty much easier to access sometimes.
Yeah.
Sa una, may kituturan ba ang aral na pulot nila dito? Pangalawa, may kiugnayan ba ito sa katotohanan ng mga tao sa komunidad?
I love it.
I love it.
Yun. So,
Nalaloka ako.
may kaugnayan ba ito?
Mag-isip ka, Ale.
Kasi, sorry na. Kasi kung wala naman palang kaugnayan, yung mapupulot nating kwento at hindi naman siya, authentic na struggle or story ng community, why the need to share? Diba? Third thing, lima to sorry. Third thing is, may kinabang ba ang mga tao sa kwento nito?
I love it.
Ano ba kung ikaw yung tao na inirerepresenta ng series or ng movie na yun, ano yung mga magiging pakinabang mo for your story being told? Are people going to understand you more? Are people would actually, have more awareness in terms of inclusivity, in terms of your own soji? Diba? Pang-apat, may kialaman ba na maibibigay ito para sa mga tao outside of the community? Diba? Kasi when you say BL movement, I don't think that it's limited to a gay love story.
Yes.
When you say BL movement, I don't think it's limited to the people inside the community, because these kinds of stories, even a boy's love story could happen to a straight guy.
Yeah.
And not be tagged as a gay person. So ano ba yung mga kaalaman na maaaring mapulot ng mga tao na nasa labas ng komunidad natin? And last but not the least, kailangan talaga nating laging titignan kung nasabi ko na yata ito. Ayun, hindi pa. Kailangan nating titignan kung mikibuluhan ba yung kwento at yung hugot ng kwentong ito. Kasi hindi naman po pwedeng kwento lang tayo ng kwento, di ba? Kailangan ang kwento na ibinibigay natin ay may katotohanan. Kailangan yung kwentong ibinibigay natin ay may pinanggagalingan, because that's what makes the story stronger. That's what makes the story relatable, 'di ba? So ayun, yun lang naman. Hindi ako masyado nag-prepare. Sorry, guys.
Hindi masyado.
Wow!
Grabe. Okay, guys, that's our show for tonight. Thank you so much.
Oh, and we're leaving with the words of
Amen.
Mickey. Ganun eh. We're leaving with the words of Mickey. May kultural, may kaugnayan, may kinabang, may kaalaman. Ang huli ay Mickey Bulahan. Para sa Mickey Tatohanan. Mga ganun.
Pag hindi pa ba nagsasalita si
Grabe.
Mickey, nag-iisip na rin ako ng pun sa pangalan ko para pagsasalita ako. Ganun.
May tanong ko para kay Allen. Allen, sa Mickey na.
Guys, thank you talaga sa pag-invite sa akin.
Nagamit lang yung Allen.
Ang hirap kasi.
Allen,
May
yun.
nila ba? Hindi.
Pero
Pero gusto
I
ko
like
din
those
like,
questions. Yes, Allen, go ahead, sorry.
hindi, gusto ko lang din idagdag kay Mickey na parang, oh my gosh, wait, parang kinakabahan ako sa dito. Kasi alam naman natin yung sitwasyon ng BL today. And pagdating sa usapan like sa sexual side, aware naman din tayo sa like sa things sa Jollibee. Alam naman natin na peke yan. Pero the fact na parang the possibility of people seeing BL stories as like something as adult content, yung parang mga sex ganyan. I guess parang, oh my gosh, teka, sorry. Ayun, I guess yung parang sinasabi ko that, sa mga BL ngayon, aminin ko, medyo namumblema ako in the sense na parang what the first and second wave has built up when it comes to like representation in the community. The newer BLs, parang kumbaga parang kumbaga we took one step forward and then they took multiple steps back. Ayan. Kasi lahat ng content nila puro sex, laplapan, ganyan-ganyan na parang ano ba naman nanonood ako ng YouTube. Hindi ako informed na Pornhub na pala to. Sorry. Pero ganun na yan. Aminin natin, parang karamihan, wait, baka naman pala.
Oo. Buti na lang
Okay
may
lang.
status tayong Kiko, di ba?
Okay lang yan, dyan naman nauso ang Kardashian sa controversy. Char! Hindi, pero kasi naman, parang, ano na nagiging difference ng mga bagong BL ngayon sa porn? Kasi, ang porn, all they have is sex, no plot. And BL today, parang ganun na.
Mag-away tayo dyan, Allen. May plot ang porn. Mas madali pa nga yung plot ng porn. We did an analysis of that before in college. So there's a typical flow of plot in porn. There's the introduction of the characters. There's the temptation. There's the arousal. There's the climax. And there's the finishing end. So there's a plot. At mas fluid pa yung plot ng porn.
It's probably just not the kind of plot that we want to see.
Pero pinapanood ko lang
on YouTube.
On YouTube. I mean, for me pa nga, mas simple pa nga yung plot ng porn compared sa other BLs na very elaborative, very web na you don't know ano ba siya. Are you standing in between BLs or porn? Para ano ka ba talaga?
And that's another thing. At least with porn, you know what it is and you know what to expect from it. And it doesn't disguise itself in sort of like any other way, right? Parang it's not a wolf in sheep's clothing. There are, however, shows which sort of like try to come across or, they package it as some sort of like BL when in fact it's not really a BL. So those are the things that you have to watch out for. And that you have to be discerning about.
Tapos, ayun nga, parang merong mga points ang mga tao na parang, wait lang, teka, hindi naman ito nakasaksakin, nadidistract ako sa mic. Sorry, props yung mic, parang mga professional, pero di ko kaya i-keep up. So, ganito yan.
Jude.
That's in front of me. Sige, so ganito lang yan. Ang problema kasi is that, gets ko yung point, kasi syempre yung mga directors, pinoprotect din nila yung parang yung work nila na sinasabi na parang, this is also part of the gay experience na mayroong mga bakla na ganito. Pero, kung may sasabihin man ako sa ganyan, it's that, yes, I understand na this is part of the gay community, but you are advertising it. Like, it is like parang sinasabi nila na parang ito na talaga ang gay community na parang, or yung LGBT in general na parang, kumbaga, this is not, sex is not the only thing we have in this community. Ang dami pang layers and they are advertising it like sex is the only thing we have. And parang dyan ako na nadi-disturb, naiinis. Pagdating sa
Mhm.
mga BL ngayon na hindi ako magde-name drop. Pero ang dami. Pero ayun, ayun ang say ko.
Okay, ano naman sa say mo daw doon? Sa porn. Ganun eh.
Yes. Actually, I agree. Like, porn, the same way with highly sexualized BL series. They have plot. Kasi, di ba, we have to look at the history na parang the BL started in Japan. The di ko alam yung
Yaoi.
pronunciation. Sorry.
Yao,
Yaoi.
Yaoi.
Yeah. So parang it was created to cater to the prepubescent, sorry, girls. Kasi parang they see sex between two cute guys as entertaining or something as like parang it's entertaining for them to see two guys having sexual intimacy. So I think that's why there's a trend of highly sexualized characters in BL. But I think that should be not supported in a way that it's the common ground for all BL series. Kasi yun nga, magkakaroon ng sawa, umay, and there are other alternatives naman to have that, right? So, I think, yeah, tulad ng sinabi ni Nikki, it's inherent, it's natural to have sexualized angles in BL contents, but we need to move on from that. Kasi if we focus on that alone, I think ma madadilute yung representation that we need, or like madadilute yung other stories that the community deserve. So yes.
Yes.
And I think
I agree.
ayun yung
Yun. Yun yung chiko na tapos na po ang lag ni JM. Pero kasi also if you look also kung lalayo, if we're not to go so far then, kasi even in our queer history content in the Philippines, we had that period. We had that bomba era. We had it in the 90s
Oh,
as well
yeah.
when Backhouse, Sagwan, Cerbis all came out together in one
Sibak.
room. Sibak, ano pa ba? Kasal. Lahat yun. We all had those names kasi kumbaga that was the mark. Kasi they were showing yung mga taparin and mga pinya at kapalaw at kung ano ng upo meron kulay. So it all came out because that was the market. And the market demanded that after a period of darkness, kumbaga. So they were all looking for that. Kasi it was post-war eh. So they were all looking for that kind of experience. And it transitioned in the 90s as well. Kasi it came from the period wherein very liberal ang sexuality ng mga tao. It was opening, so everyone was excited. No, I can do this, I can do that. So it's part of our stories na din. Pero like what Jude is saying in the tweets, personally then, he's not against showing sexuality in BLs. What he's against is hypersexuality. The BLs need to go beyond the sex. And unfortunately, like what Adam is saying, we see some of the BLs are just telling it because of the sex. They're marketing it all for the sex, but not for the story. And if you look at the top, the BLs that came in the first wave, they barely touched that. And they're all memorable, from Game Boys, guys, Pelikula, Quarantines. They barely, in Boys Lockdown, My Extraordinary, those BLs barely touched that aspect, and pumapatok pa rin sila until now.
Yung mga Hello Stranger, per season,
Hello Stranger.
lang ang kinuha nila, and then tingin mo, ang laki ng impact. Wala silang single sex scene. Ganun.
Very true, very true.
Also, may add lang po ako dun sa sinabi ni Jude Itutud. Sorry, hindi ko alam kung paano i-pronounce. Pero I agree. Kasi, di ba, catering or like depicting sexuality is something not bad, specifically because it's something that is stigmatized in society. So if it's not being represented in mainstream media, lalo mas stigmatized yung mga ganitong klaseng sexuality, right? So I think it is also important to see these kinds of content. But yeah, we need to move on from that if it yields to being hypersexualized. Because in as much as it is important to be seen in the public, it's bad if it's the only thing that you see in the community.
Yes.
And I think in addition to that, I mean, it's not just representing the community as hypersexualized. It's also how you treat those kinds of, I don't know, like the messaging. How do you treat it with respect? Diba? Kasi parang there are representations wherein it's more for shock factor, or it's more for, let's say, just to be edgy, but it doesn't necessarily put us in the best of light. Or even if we are going to present negative things, because there's always something negative. There's in any community, di ba? And personally, we also have negative things. Yeah, parang we're not perfect and everything. But how do you present that in a way that does not inspire ridicule or hate or ano, di ba? Parang it doesn't damage the community. How do you present that in such a way that it comes from a place of, okay, here's what's happening, and I want you to understand why this is happening, right? So it has to be whatever stories we tell, whatever scenes, whatever series, whatever movies we show, there should always be that level of consideration. Parang, am I showing this just for the sake of, like riling people up? Or am I showing this because this is a story that people need to hear and need to see and need to understand and be able to maybe do something about, So that's my thing. And I thank you.
I thank you. I love it. Panalo sagot ng mic. But I'm curious though, like, yeah, if we're moving forward, like potentially kasi JM and Mick, you're gonna be part of BL as well. Like, I'm curious to know, like, what kind of story do you want to see emerge out of the BL community? Parang for Mickey, parang ano makikwento mo, Mickey, in today's generation?
Sorry, are you asking me?
Yes. Ito ulitin ko.
Sorry,
Like,
nag-chat kasi yung mom ko. Sabi ng mom ko, bakit hindi mo sinabi na 9 p.m. yung start? I had to charge my phone pa. Sabi niya, so sorry.
She can watch it
Okay.
back.
Oo,
Yes.
sabi ko nandito pa naman kami. Tsaka hindi mo naman din maiintindihan. Char. So,
let me repeat that
Mama.
again.
charot.
Kasi diba, you are very part of a BL story as well. And you're gonna be weavers, you're gonna be telling the story too. Kahit you're not part, kahit hindi kayo yung main leads, but you're gonna be part of it. Kumbaga, you're the accomplices to the story as well. So I'm curious, like, what kind of stories do you want to see emerge, especially in queer media, and especially to Mickey? Parang what kind of, parang ano may kwento mo, Mickey, in today's narrative?
Salamat sa branding, Lance.
Oo naman.
Okay. Siguro, one of the things that I'm really thankful about is, si Maring Reka, the writer of our BL series, actually kind of consulted and is, I think, very well versed when it comes to, the spectrums of the community. So sorry, big question. Ayan. Salamat, Lance. Maraming salamat. So, I think one of the things that I'm really thankful of is, I'm here as a support character. I'm not here as a comic relief. I'm not here as someone that would benefit the bida just because I'm part of the minority. It's not like that. I'm here to complement the bidas. I'm here to complement the protagonists. So, ang makikwento ko naman in today's narrative is, am I the first one to answer this? Sorry, hindi
Yes.
talaga ako nakinig ng
Yes.
content. Siguro napaka-importante na regardless if you are part of the community or if you are someone who is not part of the community, for you to make your research. Kasi we are very thankful with all of these media representations that we have. Pero it is still important to understand and make your research. So, hindi mo lang siya pinapanood. Naiintindihan mo siya, di ba? Sorry. Ang cute-cute ni Lance. Ay, ni Mikey.
Sorry, I'm
Ayun.
distracting you. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's okay. I'm easily distracted talaga. Isa sa mga
Oy, same.
downside ng personality ko na.
Vice versa.
So, importante talagang importanteng maging parte ka ng storya, even as an audience. Importante na, kasi ginagawa yun, hindi lamang para doon sa side ng representasyon. Ginagawa yun para ikaw bilang isang manonood ay makarelate, ma-inspire, at hopefully if we could do the part of giving you confidence to basically stand up for who you are. So, hindi ka lamang isang manonood. Meron kang partisipasyon dapat. Kailangan mong makialam. Hindi pwedeng wala kang pakialam. Maaaring magbigay ka ng comments about it. Maaaring, you could share it to your friends if you think that it's very empowering and it's a real story of truth. Hindi po pwedeng natatapos lamang sa pagpanood, pakiramdam, pakikinig. Kailangan meron pang maging echo yun sa'yo. So, makiilam tayo, makiisa tayo sa pag-e-echo ng mga stories na ito.
Oh, in fairness, Mickey's been dropping bombs. Like, grabe. May listahan ka ba dyan? I'm just wondering. Kasi ang bilis grabe, ibang klase. I love your brain.
Beauty queen. I love it. Yes, parang I just remember yung battle cry namin sa you. So, yung brand ko rin sa'yo, parang yes, Mickey baka, wag matakot. Especially when you tell stories.
Doon talaga yun nag-start. Kasi that was the first, that was the second Pride I was with. Yung sumisigaw sila ng Maki baka, wag masyakot. Tapos sabi ko, bakit hindi Mickey baka? Because personally, I could fight for it too. Parang gano'n.
Ayun, from one Pride story to another. JM, parang, what kind of stories do you want to see? And what do you think will tomorrow's stories be about?
I'm looking forward to more representation of femme gays if the topic's all about BL ha. Like, I think may ano yun?
Or
Ito na naman ako sa mabilis makalibot ng...
The Boy Foretold by the Stars.
No, wait. Stuck on You. Sorry. Ang bilis ko makalimot yung title talaga. Like, it's, I think one of the BL series that I've seen na nagpakita ng nuances of a femme character, of a femme gay character. So I think ayun yung gusto kong makita pa in future BL series. Kasi it's important kasi, di ba, it's not just about related, like, the BL is not just about having a media for you to relate. It's also about representation. Kasi even hindi LGBT is nanonood. So it's important for them to understand, ito pala, what does it mean to be a queer? It's not na ito lang na mask or for example, cis passing yung itsura, for example. So there are different faces of what a queer is. So that's important kasi na makita ng people outside the community. So ayun yung gusto ko pang makita in the future BL content na meron. Kasi nakakasawa na, to be honest, yung mask to mask. Yeah.
Especially if they're represented na very sexualized, nakakasawa talaga sila.
Or at least other flavors, no? Because, to be honest about it, I think for now, mas tinatangkilig nga yung mga mask na mask. Yes. But I think the reason for that is because they've become the archetype, especially since we started the BL craze. Sort of like, what do you call that? Parang pinapattern natin after the TBLs, which is definitely like mask for mask archetype talaga. Diba? So I think that's what we started with. But now, like you mentioned, we are seeing more femme characters or genderqueer characters. And the more stories that are told about these kinds of characters, and the more that we humanize and normalize these stories, then the better for the community and the better for representation. And I also want to touch on what both of you mentioned, you and Mickey. From your point of view, is it something that I can relate with? Or I think it was Mickey. Parang, is it something relatable, diba? And that's very important. And that's why Mickey was saying na parang it's important that queer characters or queer actors play queer roles because there is nothing more personal to a queer person than their queerness. So therefore, they're able to better portray that role. Diba? And also in terms of the creation of the stories, script writers, I mean, also good that we have queer writers, but it's also possible for non-queer writers to be able to write that. But as was mentioned before, kailangan may research talaga. You need to be able to know these individuals. And when you're writing a story and when you're telling a story or when you're portraying a character, are you doing it from the lens of the character that you are portraying? Or are you doing it from the lens of an outsider playing a character that you just happen to be in? Alam mo yan? Kasi iba yun eh. Kasi if you're looking at it from an outsider's point of view, and you're representing that character from an outsider's point of view, then it may border or become a caricature. And that's not representation at all. That's just visibility. And like we said, a lot of characters have become the butt of jokes. So that's another thing when we're using humor in our movies, in our series, in our stories. So when we're talking about, let's say, representation, are queer people or gay people in on the joke? Or are they the joke? Alam mo yan? Kasi iba talaga yun eh. So it's very important that inclusivity in terms of, let's say, research, in terms of maybe understanding what these struggles are, and just actually just getting to know the person that you're playing is very, very important. So if I'm able to see myself in these characters, then I know that the writing was done. I mean, the research was done, and the writing was done well. Alam mo yan, yung mga ganun bagay. So yeah, I definitely agree with those points. Now, in terms of the current situation, we still have, siguro kung no, gagawa natin ng bar chart, mask for mask, kaya leading yan eh, nandun yan eh.
Actually,
Pakataas.
klase na to. Online class na to.
Tapos yung mga other roles and other characters, medyo naiksi pa lang yung bar chart nila. So we need to equalize that because part of the community, part of being a member of the community is to really champion everyone in the community, especially the underrepresented. And I think that's the way forward. And I thank you. Ang dami ko naman nasabi.
Thank you. That was nabi. Parang to add to that, I think I'm just leaving na lang with parang words na lang from the people that you talked to before. Like I think Denise said, at the end of the day, parang if you're writing from the heart and writing through, kasi ang main message naman ng community natin is love is love is love is love is love and love is universal. And if you're writing truly from that perspective, from the inward love perspective, okay ka na. You will survive. Kasi from the heart, you're writing because of love. You're writing to show love. You're writing because love is love is love. And then, other ones from Miles, na siya mismo nakasabi, kasi she's been studying BS, di ba? Then, Miles from Malaysia, na she noticed that, I want to stress it again and again, that when it went to the Philippine shore, the BL series became a movement. It became the voice of queer content, a voice wherein we want to finally let our stories be out there. So, yun. And she said that in Spain. And in Latin America, with all the Latin American reactors, na she was asked that question, what do you think, why is it different in the Philippines than in Thailand, than in Japan? And she said, because it was a movement. We own that movement. We own the revolution. And let's continue that movement and revolution as well. Yeah. So moving on to another revolutionary, Allen. Ganun eh.
Revolutionary. And revolutionary.
And kaya tayong laban. Pero I know you're fighting in a closet pa din. So I'm wondering what kind of stories do you want to see in such a way that it will make you easier to step out slowly and say na it's safe to fight outside as well.
I guess parang sa case ko kasi, I think when it comes to BL kasi, karamihan kasi ng mga pagdating doon when it comes to like how it can make it easier for me. Like, yun ano gusto ko makita sa BL. I guess, medyo like weird to, pero something na makikita ng family ko yun, struggle ko, na parang a BL that will let my family know na this is not a phase, like this is a part of my identity. Kasi parang, for me kasi parang secured na ako eh sa sexuality ko, secured na ako sa sarili ko. Pero, the odd, ano yan, sorry medyo nagugulan ang isip ko, pero
Okay lang.
one of the things kasi na parang sa BL na hino-hope ko talaga palagi is that there will be a BL that can reach my parents so that when they watch it, they will realize na parang, eto nga anak ko, meron siya pinagdadaanan and parang kailangan ko maging dyan sa side niya tanggapin siya. Parang, I don't know. I'm not looking for a specific BL, pero I want a BL that will touch the hearts of my parents. Kasi ayan naman yung pinaka-goal ko eh, na parang they will understand me. And dahil in the closet ako, I cannot directly say it to them. And I'm just hoping for something outside that will reach to them. And in hopes that they will also reach to me. Ganyan.
So, parang bakit na-imagine ko din lang, there's a BL, ang tatlong nanay, si Sharon Cuneta, si Eda Las Alas, at saka si Cherry May Cache. Tapos
Oh my
their
God.
sons are all falling for each other. Or parang ganun, they're all intertwined stories.
Oh my God.
Parang BL, pero you're reading to the perspective of the
Parang
mothers.
comedy yun.
Medyo, in a way. Pero it's gonna be kasi with the Philippine context, especially with media, you need to balance comedy, drama, and that hugot in one stream for them to absorb it, especially with the masses. Kasi napaisip din ako yung last week eh, like how would you tell a story to the masses na they will take it in? Kasi if we go to intellectual, sabihin nila, masyado mataas to, hindi ko kaya to. If we go to comedic, we would be fun upon by the woke class naman. So how do you do it? So there should be a balance between drama, comedy, and hugot.
Ay, wait, question ba yan?
Hindi, yun lang, sasabi ko lang. I'm just sharing.
Akala ko question. Oh my God, sorry.
Pero
parang
Kala you wanted to say something.
Yes, hindi. Actually, magandang segue yan kasi meron akong sabihin din na related dun. Kasi, I guess, di ba, may sinabi nga ni Mikey. Sorry, pati ako nalilito na ako sa Mikey at Mickey. Ano ba naman yan? So, pagdating kayo, sa sinabi ni Mikey na parang yun kailangan mo parang study up sa character mo. Meron akong ginagawa na parang short experiment sa sarili ko na I think pwede nyo din gawin yan for creators, whether nagdodraw kayo, nag-write ng story. Ang ginagawa ko usually whenever I design a character is that if I first design the character without doing any research na parang hindi ko alam ano meron sa kanya, hindi ko alam yung background ng profession or life niya, ganyan. I just draw with stock knowledge. And then after that, I then look, parang so after ko gawin yung parang yung design na yan, the thing I do next is that nag-research naman ako na related sa topic or related to the things that my character is supposed to like embody, represent, or kahit parang a part of. And then, after that, with that new knowledge, nagde-design ako ng bagong character. So, pwede nyo din gawin yan sa inyo, whether writing or drawing, and then makikita nyo talaga ang laki ng difference ang laki talaga ng change na pwede mangyari if to the things that na parang ni-research mo talaga. Parang may kita mo talaga yung importance of researching on a certain topic because you can actually find that like, yung parang yun, like, yung mga misunderstandings mo, ma-realize mo yung mga miscommunication o kahit ganyan. And then, sa sinabi nga ni Kuya Lance na parang pagdating sa caricature, I guess for me, someone na parang super addicted sa character design, ang importante nga sa akin is that whenever I create art or whenever I create something na parang a character, the thing I keep into mind is that do I feel like this character is part of whatever community I'm putting him or her or whatever pronouns that character has. Parang, are they part of that community? Kasi ang iba lalo pa, for example, ang dami mga yun, American remakes na parang, ano yan, kumbaga for example, buong personality niya is maging mataba lang, parang ganyan, tapos palagi niya pinipreach na parang yun mataba siya, ganyan, parang you don't feel like that's someone, you don't feel like that's an actual human being. You just feel like that's, ayun nga, parang, you just feel like that's just, parang caricature, parang not believable. Kasi, ano yan, the thing kasi is that, uh, people can understand you more. People can understand things more if they, parang, if they, sorry, oh my gosh, nalilito ako. Parang, mas naiintindihan ang tao, ang character, pag nakikita nila na tao talaga siya at hindi caricature.
Right.
So, parang super,
Humanized.
so super important talaga yun. So, I guess, ayan, pagdating din sa mga writers, designers, whatever, I guess isa din yun sa mga keep into mind na parang, is this character part of the community I'm putting that character into, or does it feel like it's parang, or does it feel like it's a caricature? Parang ganyan, I don't know. Masabi ko lang, sorry.
No, I get your point, and I think as a what do you call this, as a content creator and also as an illustrator, I think that you can actually use that to be able to tell the message that you want to tell. Diba? And if you notice, in recent times, Pixar has redefined other classic stories and made them into, alam mo yun, parang nag-introduce sila ng mga strong female characters, di ba? Yung mga dating damsels in distress are no longer damsels in distress, but they're actually damsels in arms. Alam mo yun? So lumalaban na sila and everything. So they have their own voice, they have courage, they fight for what they believe in, and they stand up for other people. So I think if you're able to take that enough, and then we can also spin it into what we do here in the Philippines, and that would be really, really awesome. So I'm hoping that you can take that and then maybe do animation with it. I don't know if that's something that you want to
Yes.
explore later on. But
That's the
definitely, di ba? Yun, no? So any type of media, as long as it has a clear and heartfelt message and it helps the community, then we'll support that for you. Ayan. So I think JM wanted to say something. Go ahead, JM.
Yeah, sorry, nag-request ako ng another answer. Because I remember na tinanong ko rin to sa isang documentary script na ginawa ko for school. Like, nag-interview lang ako ng audience or like mga tao na nanonood ng BL. And then, there's this one respondent who said na they wish na sana there's also a representation of people, of the gay community in the urban poor communities, because iba yung nuances or iba yung struggles nila. So I think there should be more intersectionality between between Soji and the class struggles in order for the representation to really be dynamic representation for all the members of the community. So yeah, yun yung gusto ko yan.
And I agree, no? Actually, because of intersectionals, ang dami-daming pwedeng permutation, masabi lang, ng mga ng mga gender, sexuality and gender expression, di ba? Kasi, like for example, I know Lance has a lot of intersections happening with him.
Yes.
But for me personally as well, I'm a Promdi. I come from a very conservative family, which is very religious, di ba? And then I sort of like just grew up here and dito ako namulat. So, coming from that very conservative and shy and sort of like quiet kind of upbringing and background, suddenly I find myself here where everyone is loud and everyone is like vocal and everything. So parang it was kind of a switch for me talaga. So how do you then navigate that, especially if you're still very young and impressionable and those things? So ang dami-daming kwento nga na pwedeng gawin.
Yes,
Yes,
especially
answer
now
is yeah.
na nakita natin, parang most of the BL characters are coming from the middle class or the more privileged part of the
Yes.
society. So parang it's easier for them to come out, let's say, because they are in more comfortable position in life and there are less expectation for them to do something. So I think there are different na struggles na hindi natin nakikita sa mga, let's say, people in the low in economic positions. So yeah, I'm excited to see more of that in the future BL contents.
Agree. Especially since yung mga portrayals of, let's say, people in those types of economic situations or, those that are in the poverty level, parang most of the time, what we see on screen would be yung parang nagtatrabaho sila, kumakayod sila para mabayaran yung pagmamahal or makakuha ng pagmamahal from another person, especially from a masked, straight person. So there should be a different way of telling that story. Because hindi naman lahat ng people in that situation would be doing the same thing. So alam mo yun. And I think that's the thing. That's what we want to see moving forward is that we want to see a retelling. I guess medyo gasgas na pero yun nga parang claiming that narrative. Pero maybe recreating the narrative na lang for me. Diba? Parang it's better to recreate that narrative. So blow it out of the water. Like, ibagin na natin yung mga dating pinapaniwalaan nila through our humanized and normalized stories. Sorry, host talaga ako, hindi ako guest.
Yes.
Thank you, bye.
And thank you for that beautiful answer, Mikey.
Bababa muna ako.
I love it. Wala na si Mikey Sao.
Umalis talaga. Kaya naman, go.
Pero yeah, oo, I mean, okay naman. Pero I'm curious naman to find out, like, since we're all sitting in this BL movement, parang each movement has an impact. So what do you think will be the long-term impact of this BL movement? Doon tayo kay Miss Trans Global, second runner-up. Nikki.
I think everything has pros and cons, but I'd like to believe that with the BL movement, we would have more pros coming in. So one thing is that, you know, more and more people are becoming our allies. And I think in the long term, this would open up more opportunities for education and discussion on, you know, what Soji is, because they would research it. They would, you know, once they idolize this specific person or this specific character, they will do their research and they will basically, you know, turn out to know more about what Soji basically is. Given that, you know, Soji is being well represented in these specific BL series and movies. Another thing is, besides it being an opportunity for discussion and education, is that it would give more, I would like to claim that it would give more opportunities for the people in the community. Because the more that these stories are being told, the more people are, you know, understanding, the more people would be able to find acceptance. Lalo na tayo mga Pilipino kapag napapanood natin sa TV, 'di ba? Madali nating paniwalaan 'yan. Kaya nga nakukuha tayo ng mga sumasayaw-sayaw ng budots eh. Pinapanalo pa natin. So, madaling mag-penetrate, you know. It would penetrate more into acceptance. I'd like to believe that. Siguro lastly, this movement would give a different set of opportunities for our queer talents. Kasi we have a lot of queer talents. We have a lot of, you know, undiscovered na hindi maipalabas na queer talents just because as of the moment, people don't still see it as marketable. You know, people still don't see it as something that they would invest money for. So the more that this movement becomes popular and the more that it makes more fuzz, I think it would open up these opportunities. So meron tayong kailangan nating mikinabang sa BL movement na ito.
Absolutely. I agree.
I love it. I love also the branding. And I totally agree with everything. So, Allen, so what do you think will be the penetration? Sige na, Mickey yung term na kanina. In the future time or for the BL movement, ano yung magiging impact niya? Or what will be the future long-lasting impression and penetration?
Teka, pwede pa uli, parang medyo nachachoppy yung audio mo.
Sorry, I know, I'm becoming a Decepticon again. So let me repeat the question. Parang, what do you think will be the long-term impact of the BL movement?
Okay, sige. Gamitin ko ng mic ko para mukhang professional. Okay, so, ah, so, pagdating kasi sa like, wait, ay taray, okay, beto, sige. Ito, Allen Gonzaga, Miss Cavite, okay? In my opinion, I do believe that okay, so kumbaga, yung parang, pipili ko yung magiging like long-term na effect sa BL movement is, kumbaga parang normalcy, acceptability, kasi one of the main problem nga kaya parang very oppressed ba yung tamang word? Okay, parang ganyan yung treatment ng tao sa okay, parang hindi nakikita na normal yung LGBT community. It's because of yan nga, the lack of any sort of representation. And dahil nga oversaturated yun hetero stories, ganyan, automatic na talaga naisip ng tao na parang that's the normal, tawag mo dito, parang that's the normal thing. And then, what I'm hoping, sorry, oh my gosh, nagugulan isip ko. Okay, so sa BL movement, kumbaga, parang, I see it long term that it will make people realize na parang, like, two guys kissing is normal, ganyan, na hindi siya iskandalo, ganyan, hindi siya rated SPG, oh my gosh, takpan ko yung mata ng ating bata because they're supposed to grow up as good, honest Christian citizens, ganyan. So parang, ganun. Kasi, ano yan, oversaturation of our stories will make people think na parang, ayun, this will be an, kumbaga, ayun nga, generate normalcy, ayun, oh my gosh, parang, ayan, and I thank you. Utak ko, oh my God, tonight.
Okay lang yan, Allen. We love our sabawness today. Ayun, how about you, Jem? Parang what do you think will be the long-term impact?
Yeah.
Because,
I think yung first long-term impact na naisip ko kanina is all about the normalization of the everything about being gay. Like it's normal to see not just in television but on the ground, on the street, to people holding hands together or like people expressing their love even if it's very queer. So I think the normalization part is very intuitive, no? So I think the next long-term impact can be since that we've been humanizing queers as a normal individual. I think it can be a starting point for actors or queer actors to be or like the queerness to be represented as something not just about romance but also about other stuff because di ba yung common criticism about the BL series or BL industry is that masyadong fixated sa sexuality and romance yung pagtingin sa queerness when in fact it is as mundane as your economic struggle or as your let's say religion. So I think that can be a starting point for other lenses to be used by different media producers na hindi na lang siya all about the sexuality and romance. It can also be about as simple as what does it look like to be a LGBT worker, for example, for a corporation or things like that. So parang it can be like it can be a starting point for another lens na hindi fixated sa romance and sexuality. And that's something exciting kasi it can also add to the diversity of representation para hindi rin masyadong nakakasawa. So yeah, it can offer new perspective about what does it mean to be queer.
Right. And you bring up a good point na kasi parang again, what they see is what impression they will have regarding the community. So if all they see are hypersexualized individuals, then that's what we are. If all they see are sort of like love-hungry people, then that's what we are. But if they see us in situations or in stories wherein we're working, we're contributing to society, or we're raising a family, or we're taking care of parang day-to-day business, then yeah, that actually normalizes and humanizes the community as well.
Kung familiar kayo sa show na Genderquake sa YouTube, meron sila isang linya na naiba to na parang feeling ko nga na parang yun, ano yan, na impactful. Kasi ang linya na binato nila is that, ano yan, let's create a world where there is no gender, only us, humans. Ganyan ang sinabi. So parang, ayun, gusto ko.
Yes.
Right.
Yes, people don't know, parang Genderquake is also on YouTube. Parang what they did was, they put people from the community at every spectrum they could find into one house. So parang sila nag-Big Brother with all of them. And at the end of the day, yung what Anne was saying was the statement of everyone who lived in that house for several days. Parang they got to see what is it like to be in the life of a non-binary. What was it like to be parang in the life of a trans woman? What was it like to be with a lesbian? And everything was tested from their nuances, from their notions of love, on how they move, how they dress. Everything was tested, was parang figured out during that episode. And at the end of the day, yun na naging statement nilang lahat. Na if you look at all of us, we are all the same, even if we're not, if we are all unique. Because at the end of the day, we're all human. We just want a world like that. And to add to what Jim was saying, then parang I want to see a future wherein our BL love stories would just fall into the category of romance. The love story na lang. It doesn't need a subgenre anymore. Like our queer stories won't be just a genre. It would be like we could have a horror story where the detective is gay, hunting like trans vampires or something. Mga ganon. So
Or
it could go
Zombalings, but different.
or we have a non-binary lifestyle story tapos he's going around the world. Parang ganun. So it's no longer just a genre. It is who we are already as people, and we're reflecting that already in society.
Yes. And to add on that, Lance, kasi parang harmful din kapag nakulong yung BL community or yung queer community or gay community sa BL industry lang or BL as a genre, because hindi naman lahat ng people outside the community watches the BL genre, right? So if we want to be seen in the public, we need to be integrated in other genres as well. So I hope the normalization and the humanization of being queer can be a starting point for this to happen.
And I think that's exactly what it is. Tama ka, Jay, ano? It is a starting point. Because at this stage, basically what these BLs are allowing us to do is sort of like making us go through another coming of age, one that we didn't experience before. So we are now experiencing it vicariously through the stories that we are watching. So kumbaga, we are rediscovering our youth. We're in kinikilig tayo and parang the joys of first love or yung mga ganung bagay. So we are able to do that again. At least for the more mature folk. That's what I'm saying. I don't know what you guys experience, but for the more mature folk, it's like parang hindi to yung pinagdaanan ko when I was a kid. So it's nice to be able to see these things represented on screen because parang if somebody else has gone through them, then parang in a way, parang I am going through it with them. Alam mo yan? So parang it's a good feeling to have. And again, it's very relatable. Pero yun nga, parang the next step to that would be other stories. Not just BLs, but all other stories where the characters just happen to have gender or the sexuality of being gay or LGBT. Yeah.
Oo. And it reminded me, Mikey, of what Mickey was saying in her spiel, I think, for Miss Trans Global, na ang sinabi niya, if only my generation before, correct me if I'm wrong, Mickey, what I remember, if only my generation before had stories like Mamu coming out, had stories like Metamorph coming out, baka it wouldn't take 20 years of my life to realize I'm trans. Tama ba? If I remember that correctly.
Yes. Parang sabi ko, parang what I want is to be able to educate people that, being trans is valid. So someone like me wouldn't have to wait 29 years to finally discover and transition to who they really are. Parang ganun.
Oh, and if the kids these days have that kind of imaging as early as now, parang we would figure out na parang, I could be this, I could be that, I could be this.
And I think I want to bring up at this point, because we're basically talking about what we want to see in the future. Diba? So I want to bring up this point that we've talked about before, Lance. Now, in terms of the spectrum, There shouldn't be a dichotomy of the spectrum. Like there shouldn't be a spectrum which is straight and that's it, and then another spectrum which is LGBT, because straight is sexuality, it's gender identity, just like gay, lesbian. So there should just be one spectrum. In it would be straight, etc., etc.
Oo. Yeah, it's just like the spectrum literally. Kasi in the spectrum, in the color spectrum, there are hues. So, kumbaga may 0 FFF, 0 CD, BG. So there's a different arrangement of numbers and letters if you look at the hue color palette. I think Alan will relate to me when it comes to that, because we're both graphic designers. So we are not defined, kumbaga, our makeup is not divided into one solid color. We are a hue, kumbaga. We differ, we unique na porket color blue ako, pero if you check my blueness, I am 0FCDG. But the other blue is 0XY something something. So, ganun.
Sabi nga ni
Hex code.
Kiko, di ba, every color, every hue is
Represented
represented
by
And then me and you.
Totoo.
Ayun, basta.
Totoo.
Take a look in the kaleidoscope.
Yes, we are a kaleidoscope. Agree.
Agree. So, speaking of the spectrum, Alec, I have a question. I have a question for all of you then. Parang, I know within the minorities, we have some issues also. And there are some things that you would like to change about it. And if you had the power to change one thing about the community, what would it be? Alan.
Permission magpahuli.
This coming there, pass. Okay, it's your turn now.
Nagugulat
You have
eh.
30 seconds to answer the question.
30 seconds.
Huli na ako, please. Nag-iisip ako.
Okay, JM or Mickey, who is prepared? Who would like to answer?
Ano lang. I think if there's one thing that I want to change in the community, it's the removal of a dominance of a specific sector in the community. Like, for example, the dominance of being a dominant versus the alienation of the sub, for example, or the dominance of the masks, or being the dominance of gay in the LGBT world. So I think those things alienates people, specific people inside the community that aims to be more inclusive to all people. So if there's dominance, I think it's counterintuitive to the goal of the movement if we keep on isolating specific people in the community.
True. It should be equal. And I thank you. Okay.
Sorry. Sorry.
sorry.
JM, sorry
Yes.
po.
Naglalag rin kami. Naglalag rin kami
Oo.
actually. Ayan. Thank you. Yes, I agree. Interesting
Ikaw,
perspective.
what's your perspective on that? If you had the power to change one thing about the community, what would you change?
Thank you so much for that wonderful questions, Mr. Lance Lucas. If I were given, charot, siguro, this is out of my personal perspective. This does not, represent the community, the hosts, or the program. I would want the community to be more compassionate, not just with the people in the community, but with everyone, basically. Or I would say, instead of being compassionate, I would want everyone in the community to be as more humane as possible, because I think it would all boil down whether someone would give you the love that you deserve. And I'm speaking not about romantic love. I'm speaking of love as as a human being. I think it would all boil down to being humane, because at least if you are human, you would have the decency to understand the struggle of that person and not invalidate the person or the identity of that person. Kasi you would have enough enough compassion in your heart para at least try to relate to them, try and see the world from their view, and try to fill in, the shoes that they have. And I think that's very important because, everyone tend to be so selfish.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone tend to be so focused about themselves. Even those people who are or who are sometimes fighting for human rights, for advocacies, they tend to be so centered with the fight that they forget the people they are fighting for.
Mm.
So
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
want the members of the community to be as more humane as possible. And I thank you.
I love it.
Thank you for that wonderful response.
Yeah,
Yes,
Miss
I love it.
Cavite, are you ready now?
Yes, I am.
So let us repeat the question. You have only 30 seconds to answer, and your
Ay,
answer would start with I believe and
Bigla may
end with
30
I thank
seconds.
you.
wag pa may luto, teka.
Yun.
Nakapag-isip ka na kasi.
Oh,
Dapat
Oo nga.
meron
yeah,
na.
nakapag-isip na. Hindi, sige. So, I, Alan Gonzaga, ano yan, I believe that if I have the power to change one thing about the community, okay, medyo seryosohan. Aminin ko, ang isa sa gusto ko at least ma-change is the value of empathy. Kasi, personal, ito, someone who is closeted, lalo pa sa alter na to, very, like, anonymity, the fact nga di ako napapaturo ng mukha. Ang daming, ang dami ko nakukuwang messages or merong mga people na parang palagi sinasabi sa akin na parang, alam mo yung parang pinipilit nila na parang, paturo mo na
Right.
mukha mo, ganyan-ganyan, o kahit sinasabi na mag-come out ka na ganyan kasi parang, lalo pa sa mga kinikwento ko minsan, parang para sa that na parang, ganyan pala yung personality mo, sure ka na sa sarili mo, so ba't parang ay mag-come out na parang, palagi ko sinasabi na parang, para sa'yo, madali. Oo. I guess I'm happy din na nakapag-come out ka. I'm happy na that step in your life has been accomplished. Pero intindihin nyo din na parang there's a reason why I'm not out yet. And wag nyo ako manadiliin kasi tingin nyo nga the fact na in the closet ako eh. The fact na nandito ako ngayon, naghihirap ako, nagtatakpan ako ng muka, nagsusot ako ng hat, kahit ang init-init ng panahon, ang hirap. Gustong gusto ko maging out, gustong gusto ko sumigaw sa buong mundo na bakla ako na proud ako ganyan. Pero mahirap sa case ko and I wish na parang the people in the community, like some of those people in the community would understand, especially the fact that they were in that stage before. They would understand the hardship. They would understand how mentally tiring it is to be in the closet. And ayun nga, ayan yung pinaka-wish ko, ayun yung pinaka-gusto ko ma-change. Kasi if everyone is empathetic to each other, then it will help everyone in their own journey because everyone understands and everyone will be there to support you. Parang ganyan. Yun, gusto ko iba.
Yes.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
I thank you. Oh, sorry.
May pag-umol.
Oh.
Oo.
Pero yun nga, it reminded me of, kasi I was listening also to the Stoic Maring Reka. And thank you, Maring Reka, for quoting me as well. Kasi when he was talking with EJ and si Christine, when they were talking about Soji, he mentioned yung famous na ginagamit ko madalas. Yung sabi ko sa kanila noon, I kept reminding them before, when you were talking, na coming out is not a requirement. It is not a race. Do it on your own time, pace, and place. So, ganun yung sinasabi ko madalas. Kasi, if you keep on pushing people out of their time, you're parang urging them to skip a process that they might regret eventually, that they might miss out on something that they could have learned while in that process of rediscovering themselves. So, it's best not to parang come out, not to push them to come out, but it's best to listen to what they need during that moment. If you need someone just to talk to, be that listening ear. If they need someone just to hold their hand while going somewhere, be that person for them. Yun lang naman.
Yes.
Kaya sabihin ka naman, it's my yun eh. That's Mikey, may sasabihin ka ba?
No, that's point blank. Period. Done.
Alright. Period, the big period. With a big T, ganun eh. Anyways, yun. Ayun, since you've talked about change, now I'm curious kasi I feel like you guys, you folks would be part of the next generation of leaders in your own fields and in your own rights, especially on the LGBT community. So how do we challenge or how do we initiate the change and how do we challenge the status quo of today? Who would like to go first? Sino handa na? Let me repeat the question. As the next generation of
Ang
leaders
hirap kasi.
and LGBT members, how do we challenge the status quo and how do we initiate the change? Especially after hearing all that you've said a while ago.
Ah,
It doesn't have to be a big answer, pero at least yun. Go, JM.
Di ba may common saying na be the change you want to see in the world? So yeah, the
Yeah.
change that we want to see should start in ourselves. So if we want, for example, to change the mindset that coming out is something that is required in order for you to be part of the community, if we want to change that, then we should be vocal about it, vocal against it, right? So I think, for example, if we also want to debunk the dominance of a particular archetype, we should be like bold about our identities, even if it is something that is a minority inside the community. So yeah, I think it should start in ourselves because it's something that can be copied by others and it reflects towards the community as well. And I
You
thank
short
you.
and sweet. I love it.
Very well said. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Boto kita. Sure.
Oo. JM for president, mga ganun.
Oh, youth chapter mo, ganun. Go.
Oo. How about you? Ayun, go.
Sorry,
Go,
I'm
Mickey.
ready
Mickey.
to answer. So, for me, I think it's very important. Lagi kong sinasabi to sa mga naging estudyante ko before at sa mga future students ko. Napaka-importante na magpakadalubhasa ka. Kailangan mo magpakadalubhasa kasi you cannot pour from an empty cup eh. Diba?
Yeah.
You cannot be someone, that stands up for the community if, you know nothing about the community, if you don't understand the community itself. So it is very important that you don't only empathize with these people, but you also understand and know their struggles and their hugots. Kasi, that's basically how someone advocates eh. That's basically someone try to make it relatable. So, it is very important na magpakadalubhasa ka. Kailangan meron kang alam. Hindi po pwedeng wala. Hindi po pwedeng, you cannot just be, words without actions. So, yeah, that's it for me.
Thank you. Agree. Ang
Agree.
galing salita ng
Mas
mga
lahat
ano
ng-
natin.
I know. Malabas na pala. Narinig ko tuloy yung mga makialam, makitural, makibuluhan. So,
Babalikan ko talaga yun. Promise.
At least, mikinig lang kayo ng mikinig. Meron pa yan dito.
Oh my God!
I love it.
And if you feel like it and you want to champion the cause, Mickey, baka talaga tayo. Let's.
Yes.
Ayan, so sa case ko naman, I guess, to answer the question, I guess, for me talaga, the simplest answer is just, I'll continue on creating. I'll continue on doing the things I do. One of the main reasons kaya gustong-gusto ko maging animator, and the main reasons why I always strive and hone my skills to actually achieve that dream, it's because, ayun nga, I know the power of media and I myself has been parang very inspired ako by animation as a little gay kid na parang ganyan. All of my views in life are influenced because of animation. And I'll continue on creating, I'll continue on honing my skills so that someday when I'm in that position to create stories, to share my talent to everyone, I want those little Allens in the world to see my work and realize that they are valid and no one would tell them otherwise. Ganyan. Kumbaga, so the simplest answer is that I'll continue on creating, I'll continue on improving, and I'll continue on being who I am. And I thank you.
Okay, different viewpoints now, pero I think basically the common thread is that for us to be better as a community, there are certain things that we need to improve on and certain things that we need to focus and be better at. So there's empathy, there's compassion, and there's basically equity and equality, di ba? Kasi tama nga parang we're championing equal rights for ourselves, but then within the community itself, parang we are not treating each other as equals. So parang there's something ironic and very off about that. So yeah, definitely. I agree.
So parang I agree also na I remember the words of Dominic Jackson. If you're not familiar with Dominic Jackson, she is the actress in Pose who plays as Electra.
Electra.
And if you watch her off-screen interview, she is a really genuine person. And one of the quotes she said in that interview was, the people of the community forget na there's a lot of people in the minority. And the people in the minorities forget that they are not alone in the battle. But if all these minority groups, all these collectively joined forces together, the minority now will become the majority. And we should embrace that and fight. Yun yung naging message ni Dominic Jackson. When she said,
Amen.
Post mo yan, Lance. I wanna repeat that.
sige. Hanapin ko yung verbatim niya. Kasi I don't remember the verbatim, but that was the set. Yung parang main quote niya when she was talking to a group doon. Kasi I think she said that, to give more perspective, she said that after Black Lives Matter, Trans Lives Matter, Asian hate, all of that. So parang she noticed that everyone is fighting their own battles, but if all of these unite in together in each one's battles, because we are all minorities, we will become the majority.
Let's hope for the
Hindi
day.
ko magiging political to. Char.
Oo, Miss Cavite, anong
So,
gusto mong
hindi na
sabihin ngayon?
Hindi na beauty pageant. Ano yung tawag doon? Meeting the advance na to. Just go. Guys, speaking of which, 2022, let's vote. Not wisely, responsibly. Let's go. Ayan. I think there's one other thing, Lance, that we want. Sure. Before we wrap it up.
Oh yeah. Parang before we ask for your final words, I would just like to do yung tradition ni Nico before when it comes to yung mga parang past talk interviews niya. Parang I would like you to say the sentence or fill in the blanks. Parang I am blank is your name and I will blank for the community.
Sorry, Lance. I think I did not get it.
Ayun. If you see the banner down below, kasi this is a tradition that Nico does, and Nico Magsalin, one of our DBS members, does in some of the interviews, and it's like how Boy Abunod did it with Catriona Gray also. If you remember that moment. Now, when parang we want to manifest whatever you guys are saying, also. So let's create a statement like, my name is blank. Say your name and say, and I will blank for the community. So you fill in the blanks. Oh, natatawa si Allen. You go first. Go!
Oh my gosh. Bawal mag-react, natatawag.
Wait lang, teka.
Ay, okay. Nahiya si
Andiyan
Allen. Ano dyan si Mother, maybe.
Maybe, yeah.
So, yeah. So JM, how about you? Nakamit siya.
And you're on mute.
Sorry, nakamit ako. Pero it's very simple lang. My name is JM and I will fight for the community.
Yes.
Laban.
Siguro,
Laban.
since we're waiting for Alan, mine would be my name is Mickey, and I will champion for the community.
Yes.
Ano kaya yung kay Allen?
Oo. Ano kaya kay Allen?
Pero ikaw,
wala pa
Lance, habang nag-aantay tayo. Yung sa'yo, ano sa'yo?
Ayun, ako, parang, my name is Lance, and I will create for the community.
Okay.
Ikaw, Mikey.
Ay, akala ko nakalimutan.
Siyempre, hindi.
My name is Mikey, and I will continue to have discussions, to educate, to humanize, and to normalize for the community. Char!
Yes.
Ito
Mo
na,
yan.
ito na, Mikey.
Ito na.
Ito na ang running
Ito
for
na.
ito na ang running for Miss Speak Through 2021. Alan Gonzaga. This is your final Q&A.
Uy, hello naman kay kay Studio si Donnie.
Yes.
Sid.
Hi, Sid. Thanks for dropping by.
Thank you for dropping by.
Siyempre, support kay Mickey.
Yes, and don't forget to watch yung ginawa ng video, Babaylan, on his channel.
Right, yes.
So beautiful. Sobrang, because Lance made me watch it eh.
Nice.
It's so nice.
It is, actually. I was
Oh,
hoping that it
ang
would
ganda
be a series, actually.
Ano, Sid, gawin mo yung series, please. I want more of that. Parang tackle more of the Babaylans.
Yeah,
True.
agree.
Like, kasi,
Allen.
habang naghihintay natin kay Allen, handa ka na ba? O mag-chika muna kami.
May mic na eh. Handa na.
Ito,
Handa na yan, may mic na. Okay.
My name is Alan Gonzaga, your pambansang marupo, and I will be part of community. Oh, ayan.
Yeah.
Kasi o kahit hindi, I will be very involved, very active for the community. Ayan.
Nice.
Oh my God.
Bunti ko na mabuga yung tubig ko. Ano ba yan?
Itong rason kaya di ako nagpa-pageant.
Speak from pageant edition.
Speak from pageant edition to. Maturo ka na kay Nikki para masaya.
Ay, actually workshop na to, guys.
Pero, ayun, as we were saying a while ago. So Sid, I hope we have more stories na kung kayo nyo ulit revive the Babaylan culture, and I would love to see the new Babaylan stories. If you could turn that into a series wherein you would interview sana more of who are the new Babaylan of today, I would love it.
Right.
Ang galing nun.
Or kahit short stories then, no?
Yes,
Oh.
absolutely. You remember those Adobe Studios that were done by Direct Pancho? So they were only like 5-minute videos, but then you could actually tell a complete story, in one of those videos. So maybe something along those lines, a series or like an anthology or something.
And sometimes if it's just like really short, it's more engaging eh. Kasi they don't have to really spend more time to finish it.
And people have very short attention spans, so
That
the
is so
shorter,
true.
the better. Nawala talaga si GM. Oh my God. Pero
Hindi
sige.
kinaya ang question. Char.
No, maybe it's his data. Alam niyo naman, internets. Ayan. Pero siguro, just to sort of like wrap up, I guess, Lance, no? Tell us about what you're currently working on, and if people want to follow you, tell us your social media.
Oh, I don't want to wrap it up. Just
24 hours
step
tayo,
up.
guys.
Clingy.
Part 2, Char.
Clingy.
Yeah, I know. We had so much fun. But we did say we were only going to run for 2 hours, but it's been like 2.5. So we have to end at some point, and you guys need to rest as well. So what are you future projects? Like future things, or what can we look forward to? And also, yeah, if they wanna check out your social media, where can they go? Yeah. So who'd like to start?
Ayun, sige. Ako na lang muna. Ano yan? I guess pagdating sa future projects, ayun nga, meron akong dinidesign na sets of characters based on the colors of the Pride Progress flag. For now, for the last 5 characters, I want to give more time in creating them. Pero watch out for that. And other than that, I'm actually creating a comic right now, and maybe somewhere within the month, mapopost ko yung first chapter, hopefully, cross.
Hey, looking
Yes.
forward to that.
Tapos, ayun,
Yes.
if you guys want to follow me at my Twitter at ClosetDam, Instagram at Al Gonzaga, and my YouTube, Allen Gonzaga. I-follow nyo guys, kung mahal nyo ako, syempre kahit di nyo ginawa, mahal ko pa rin kayo. Pero di ba mas maganda kung mutual ang feelings? Kaya gawin nyo na guys. Follow, subscribe, and like. So, ayan lang guys. And I thank you, and I believe in the saying na walang taong tamad, masipag lang sila magpahinga. Wow.
Nakakainis. Diyos ko, ano to?
Diyos ko.
hindi ko masyadong handa doon. Ito
Ang
parang
galing!
diba?
Ang galing!
Ayan. So go ahead and follow him, guys, and check out his up-and-coming art. Ayan. Mickey, go naman.
Yeah, so Mickey, isa po tayo sa pagsuporta sa ating Miss Trans Global Philippines 2021, Miss Elpian. She will be competing for the title of Miss Trans Global, and she really needs help and support from our brothers and sisters, because it really is different when the support comes from within. Another thing is, I would really like everyone na makisama sa pagsuporta naman ng Nighttime in the Suburbs.
Yan.
This is
Yes.
a BL that is going to be produced by Uncle Scott, or USPH TV, directed by Jolo Atienza and written by Maring Reka. This will be a story, of someone who is promiscuous and then mai-inlove sa isang asexual. And it's a nice mix, and it's a nice introduction of the asexuality in media. So I hope you guys could catch that will be booking soon. And yeah, you can follow me on my social media accounts. Facebook is Mickey Alonso, YouTube Mickey Alonso, Twitter Mickey Alonso, same with Instagram Mickey Alonso.
Yeah, nice. So I just want to share the poster. I think this is it. Tama ba? This is it. No?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. So there. Hey, I like this one.
I love that one. Parang
Is it Baguio? It reminds me
that
of
is
Baguio.
Baguio. That is my
Yes.
hometown.
Oh,
I am so excited.
Definitely
baka
looking
makita ka
forward to that.
namin doon, or makita ka doon sa baka feeling ko may cameo si Lance.
Talaga
Ay.
po. Lance
Hello?
na
Kasi
kasama
kasama
namin,
ka
no?
daw eh.
Actually,
Diyos
kasama
ko.
din ako sa cats. Ako yung tinatapakan. Char!
Laban! Diyos
Ako yung
ko.
semento.
Oo, buong dance kasi. Diba? Ganun. Kasama ka like
Diyos ko. Sige, ako yung, I don't know, yung
Ito yung extra
halaman
number
sa
2.
gilid. Uy, wala si JM, pero you
Ano
can
yan?
find
Oo
it.
nga.
O ano
Wait,
yan?
No, that's me.
Inyo guys, ano yan? For JM, bilang kanyang self-proclaimed manager. Char, self-proclaimed
Yes.
manager.
O sige lang.
Follow niyo siya sa kanyang Twitter at KimJM__ Polka at yung kanyang IG JM_Pagitan. Ayan.
Yes, and it's also going to be a part in Nets, also in Nighttime in the Suburbs. He's going to be playing Charles, which is one of the main leads. Cousin? Tama?
Cousin of the lead.
So let's see what story JM will be telling there. And I'm curious kung story ni Patty also in it.
Oh, you guys would love JM's character kasi when I got the script reading and all, sobrang lovely talaga ng character ni JM. And I hope you guys watch out for Patty as well.
And there's a lot more. We also have our friends there. We have the people that we talked to before. We have Erica Lucas, Capelido.
Yeah,
We have
very
AJ Castro
talented
as
people.
well. Yes, we also have May the Fiesta in the house, part of the cast
Yes.
too. And
She
someone we
here.
know from the other side transferring there. We have Kevin Alejandro. Yung
Yeah.
interview Kevin din with
Ang
that
alam
group.
nila, so,
Oo.
researchers.
No, ako.
Grabe
Online
memory niya,
talaga.
no?
Oo, and we also have
Grabe.
Ben, wala, si dakilang Ben Espina is also there. So they're the two leads, si Ben and si, what was his name again, Allen? Si Kurt, yung kapartner ni Ben. Sorry, hanggang doon lang.
Si Arcane Del Rosario. Si Arcane.
Arcane Del Rosario. So, ayun.
Oh, the guy from boy band Love.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, that's why we're gonna have voice swap now. Ganun eh.
And then there's also a new talent, Dylan Iturralde. Sobrang pogi din ng bata.
Oh.
Visuals help, definitely.
Mm.
All right. Okay, so since we're promoting stuff, kami rin, quick lang, sorry. So I wanted to show you the Game Boys thingamajiggy. So just in case you know anyone who doesn't have tickets yet and they want to get tickets to Game Boys the movie, just go ahead and direct them to this tweet. So there are two things you gotta do. Just go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube channel and then answer the question, why should future generations watch Game Boys? And then we're gonna do a live probably next week wherein we are gonna be announcing the ticket winners. So that's it. Thank you so much.
For the host, ayaw nyo ba mag-sample kayo ng answer sa question na yan?
Which question?
Sa giveaway nyo?
Ay, ano ba yun?
Bigyan
Grabe
mo
yung answer seeker. Ano ba yan?
We already have an entry there.
Okay. May entry na pala.
Sila sumagot kasi we want to get in their perspectives. And, you know, when we say something, it might preempt or it might influence whatever it is they're gonna say. So, yeah, we don't want to do that.
Alan, kami kilala kung gusto sumali. If you're also interested, you can join.
Yes.
Mas interested ako sa kanya, pero sige.
Well, we all gotta start someplace.
Mag-sponsor si Allen eh.
Why not, diba?
Oo, ano yan, isang Mentos.
Ayan. So, I guess that brings us to the end, no, Lance?
Or picture muna tayo habang wala si JM.
Si JM. Pero sige, let's take a photo together and then I'll just take a screen cap of when he was here. Pero sige, right now, let's go ahead and take a quick photo before we wrap up. Yes, meron talaga tayong plushie. All right.
Sushi.
Ano ba?
Okay. Sige, 3, 2, 1. Ang laki ng ngiti ko. Ano ba yan? All right. Thank you so much, guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Alan.
So hopefully this is not the last time that we see each other. We want to talk to you again. Maybe another speak room or maybe another live. But definitely we want to do this again. So we wish you good luck in all of your projects and all of your shows. And everything basically in your professional and your personal lives. And for everyone in the chat, thank you for joining us tonight. Again, this is Hobby Squad. My name is Mikey. This is Lance. And we have Nikki and Alan and also JM. Hopefully he's fine. And we'll reach out to him soon. Insert JM. But thank you again for spending your night with us. So make sure that you stay safe, you take care, and hopefully you're registered so that next year we can all vote. All right, so this is it. Thank you very much, everyone. We'll see you in the next one. Bye.